Well, good evening to you all, whoever's watching here at this moment in time. And of course, happy Easter to you all. Hope you've been able to enjoy the day so far. Before I get too deep into things here, just want to test and see if everyone can hear my microphone okay. And if so, we'll kind of catch you up to speed on the severe weather threat that we are tracking here in the area as we get closer to that sunset time frame. And again, if anyone just wants to let me know if they can hear me here at the beginning, and then we can kind of go on from there. But no storms in the area just yet, although we really do have a few starting to enter on in some of our far western counties now. We even have a couple of warnings. I've got one yes so far in the chat, so I'm going to take it that you guys can hear me, and I'll keep an eye on that just in the event that you cannot. But yeah, we've just got a couple of warnings here for the time being. Doesn't look like there's any actual storms technically in our viewing area just yet. But we do have some of those warnings, and they're not just normal everyday warnings either. They have the considerable tag on them. That means, in this case, that there's going to be wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour included in these warnings. And it looks like you guys can indeed hear me. So we're going to go ahead and get going here with our coverage. So right now, across parts of Cass and Morgan counties, we just kind of have that standard severe thunderstorm warning on it. But with this line that kind of moved through Missouri earlier in the afternoon, there have been tornado warnings up and down that line pretty much throughout its entire existence. And we do have one warning just on the edge of the area right now, a tornado warning that is. So keeping an eye on that. These circulations have been a little messy, just kind of noticing some surges there in this line that kind of indicates some of that rotation. So we've been keeping a close eye out for that. There's nothing too terribly organized in there that just screams there's a tornado in that storm just yet up to this point. But that is something that we are going to follow here and see if that changes with time. So the time is about 7:15 p.m. And if you've been kind of following the forecast here for the last several days, you may have heard us say that this event tonight is going to be kind of a later one, kind of after that sunset time frame. So far, that's holding true. It is just after 7. We're starting to see those storms enter on in our far western counties as things sit right now. And we're expecting this line to pretty much move through the entire area at some points into the night tonight. However, we are expecting a weakening trend as those storms progress through time. Let's show you what we know for sure right now. And I'm sure you got a notification on your phone at one point for this, but we do have a tornado watch in effect until 11 p.m. For these counties here. And I'm going to switch over to full screen just so you can get a better look at that. That includes parts of Logan, Menard, Cass, Morgan, Sangamon, Christian, Macoupin, Montgomery, and Fayette counties. Again, that is until 11 p.m. Tornado watch in effect, mainly for those counties there, as you can tell, along the I-55 region. But that's where it's at the moment. That's not to say that's the only places that will have that tornado watch deeper into the night. I've even heard the National Weather Service kind of discuss the potential to maybe expand this watch to a few counties off to the east at some point in time. But that time is not just yet, as those storms are still just now getting into the area. So we are going to keep you updated on that if anything like that changes. But that's where the watch sits right now. That's kind of where we thought the biggest risk was going to be all along. That's what the Storm Prediction Center kind of thought as well. Here's your current tornado risk index, according to the Storm Prediction Center's last update. It's got about a 4 out of 10 there on that far western edge of our Cass and Morgan County, even parts of Macoupin County there. That's where that potential is going to be the highest. In fact, those storms are kind of reaching the maximum potential in our area. That's not to say they can't kind of weaken and pulse back up as they progress on through. But you can see the overall trend and expectation is that these storms are going to kind of come down in intensity the deeper into the night we get, because there's just a lot more instability that they've been able to work with up until this point. Now they're starting to run into a little less of that instability as they get into our area. So that's why we're expecting things to calm down just a little bit at some point in the night, but we're not going to talk about that here for a while because we are just getting started here with our severe weather threat as these storms kind of knock on the door of our western counties. So if you're just now joining us, catch you up to speed here. We don't really have any storms actively going on in the area just yet, but we do have some of those warnings well ahead of those storms. So we're going to kind of keep you updated, keep you in the loop ahead of those storms as they move on in. Right now, we've got kind of one main warning that covers 2 counties. That is for parts of Cass and Morgan County, as this line is soon to move on in. They have not extended any tornado warnings into our area just yet, but we are keeping an eye on things here with our friends at the National Weather Service. We kind of have a chat with them at all times. And we also have Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty out in the Stormtracker. I believe he's somewhere in Sangamon County right now. Is that correct, Jacob? Do you have a location on?
Springfield.
Past Springfield.
I just thought you bring a
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. So we've got Kevin out there. Had that mentioned in the description for sure, I know. But yes, Kevin is out there. He's going to be our eyes on the ground as those storms enter the area here later on into this evening. Right now, he's kind of just approaching stuff. Can see it there in the distance a little bit. But again, nothing crazy of note just yet. Just those warnings that are officially in the area. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up our velocity product here. We're just going to kind of look inside the storms and see kind of what we can there inside them. And again, it's a little messy right now. We're kind of on that edge where the St. Louis radar is an equally good look as the radar in Lincoln. But we'll see if I can kind of keep things on the St. Louis one here for just a moment. You just kind of notice this bowing shape here. That's kind of what they've been watching with those winds kind of mixing around a little bit and potentially causing some circulations there for brief periods of time. So we are paying attention to that. And of course, if you are hopping on in our stream here, let us know where you're watching from. And if you've got any questions there, we will get to them at some point in time here. Obviously, got a lot of people starting to check on in, but we will keep an eye out for you. As we look at these storms through velocity, we're looking really high up in the storm, so it's a little misleading. This isn't representative of what's going on directly at the surface, but we know there's a lot of strong wind energy aloft, and that's kind of the concern with these storms a little bit. That's what's kind of giving us that tornadic potential. That's what's also going to give us that strong wind potential later on into the evening. And what I think I'll do, I think I had a good look at this earlier. I'm going to try it again. Our storm relative velocity, which kind of gives us a different look there at your standard velocity product. Again, we're looking way up here in the atmosphere, but this kind of gives us a better look at where maybe there's a little bit of rotation going on there in the upper levels. And of course, you have to have rotation in the upper levels to kind of work it down to the surface as well. So keeping an eye on that particular product too to see how things shape out. Again, if you are hopping in here just now joining the stream, really nobody's seeing storms here right at this moment in time. We're kind of focused on the far western extremes of the area, kind of those folks along I-55 and to the west. That includes parts of Cass, Morgan, Menard, Sangamon counties mainly here at the moment, even Macoupin County there before too terribly long. So that is where our eyes are at the moment, because if we just kind of take a look at the whole radar picture, looking pretty empty here right now. And that's exactly how it's going to be here for the next few hours, because these storms are marching in from west to east. So if you're watching in Champaign, Decatur, Mattoon, Charleston, Effingham, it'll still be a while. In fact, it could be an hour or two before storms actually arrive into your area. We're just keeping those folks out there to the west ahead of schedule and making sure that they are able to stay on top of things as we kind of get into the beginning stages of our severe weather event tonight. Not going to be an event that drags on like we've seen some in the past. This one actually could kind of wrap up there before we get too deep into the night. Maybe 11 or midnight or so is when that peak severe weather threat is going to be here. We are going to kind of keep following things through the night. But I've mentioned up to this point that we have the weakening trend that we're expecting at some points later on with these storms. And what I'll do real quick is pop up a future track for you to see. And I'll go ahead and bring that full screen here, assuming that I've got the right stuff routed in. There we go. So I'm going to show you kind of the full screen version of future track as we keep an eye on these storms through the night. So it's doing not too bad of a job of depicting what should be happening out there right now. And in fact, what I'll do, I'm going to switch to a different version of this same future track. It's kind of a little more rapidly refreshing. There we go. So this one should kind of give us a more detailed view of what's to come here the next few hours. There comes that line moving on in. We think it'll kind of hold its organization to a decent degree as it continues to march to the east across the I-55 region. So that's the radar simulated view at about 9 o'clock, 9:15 or so. That's when we think storms are still going to be relatively organized. They're still going to have as much steam as they've had throughout much of their existence here. And then as we march to the east a little bit, notice things become just a little more cluttered in nature. This particular model actually does keep things kind of alive and well deeper into the night, but we're not going to have quite as much to tap into at that stage. So maybe it becomes less of a tornado threat, more of a wind threat as we get deeper into the night. Then eventually you're talking about 11, midnight or so. That's when things are kind of pushing as far east as they can. And maybe about 1 a.m. or so before storms are officially out of the area. But we tend to think that your tornado threat should decrease as we march off to the east with these storms deeper into the evening. So that's a look at your future track, and we'll kind of pop up a couple of other forecast products here for what to expect tonight. Here's your tornado risk index. It sits at a 4 out of 10, kind of where the storms are at right now. That is where the the highest potential for tornadic storms is going to be, as just kind of mentioned there with the future track. And then we start to enter into the I-55 region. We're still going to have some strong storms. We're still going to have that tornado potential, even though it's not quite in the bullseye here in the area. But I think by the time we get to I-57, you're really going to start to slow things down a little bit, and it's just not going to have quite the same potential getting deeper into the night. Now, that being said, I'm going to flip you over to our next graphic here, and you will see the maximum wind potential. Again, same idea. You're going to see decreasingly lower wind speeds the farther east we go with these storms. But early on, 65, 70-mile-an-hour gusts are certainly a possibility. I think even though the wind threat is what takes over later into the nights, again, that maximum potential is not quite going to be the same thing. There could be hail in these storms, really not too much of a concern, not really one of the lead things here and what we are worried about with these storms tonight. But that'll be just another part of those storms that we will need to kind of keep an eye out for as we move along here into the night. So kind of reset things here. It is 7:23 on this Easter Sunday night, and we are tracking storms as they get ready to move on into the area, still knocking on our doorstep, maybe kind of officially entering into parts of far western Morgan and Cass counties. If you're out there in the Meridoja area, definitely feeling this storm as it moves on in. Some pretty intense rain, maybe even a little hail in there. And we've been noticing possibly some rotation in some of those storms. You notice the tornado warnings kind of embedded throughout this little mess of rain. And I think a couple of these storms have outrun their circulations just a little bit. We'll kind of dive in with velocity to the best of our ability. And you can kind of see here, I'll even bring myself back full screen, kind of the features that we're watching for. Anytime you kind of see some of these contrasts, that's where you can kind of tell some of those winds are kind of mixing around a little bit. And right as I point there, they took off one of the warnings. So we'll kind of see what is in the future here as to whether or not they're going to continue some warnings. Looks like we have a tornado warning up into parts of Schuyler County as well. So even just off to our northwest a little bit, same folks kind of dealing with similar problems up that way. And so we're kind of just watching things as it might kind of miss us to our northwest here initially, but this is a pretty long and expansive line of storms that will kind of cover much of the area here deeper on this evening. I can see there's one comment in here kind of talking about when they expect storms to start. And I guess that's it's a good thing to kind of pop up here real quick. So I've got a graphic that describes that exactly, and I'll kind of show you here real quick. So obviously right now is just after 7 p.m. So this initial area here, kind of this pastel purple or that pinkish color, 7 to 9 p.m. roughly is when storms are supposed to arrive. I think we're just a little ahead of the game. I think 9 p.m. is kind of a later back in there for those storm start times. So I'd say between 7, 8 p.m., that's when that line is going to initially push on through. If you're kind of here in this bluish color, we're talking about maybe 8 p.m. at the earliest, maybe 8:30 or so before that line of storms moves on in. Then eventually we kind of get here around the I-57 area. We're thinking kind of later into the night, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. or so. And you can see into those green colors. That's when we're talking about closer to midnight for some of us. So that's kind of your timing when to expect these storms to arrive on in. We're kind of on schedule right now with that initial line entering right here just after 7 p.m. So we are tracking that here at the moment and popping back up on our radar here. Again, we do have one main warning that covers 2 counties. That would be Morgan and Cass counties. And this one, I'll even let it pop up here on the radar product, just so you can kind of read for yourself what these warnings are for. And I think I got one of the ones up there. So yes, we've got even some tornado possible tags within these storms as they displayed rotation at one point in time. Also seeing 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible there within some of these storms too. So that is why they have that considerable tag on them. So kind of keeping an eye to see how that is going to evolve with time. Again, just in the early stages of this severe weather event so far this evening. But this is technically when things are supposed to be, if not at the peak, at least near the peak for the intensity here along this line. So far, though, looks like we are kind of dodging the tornado warnings here, just kind of keeping those general severe thunderstorm warnings in the area. But just some heads up here for places like Jacksonville coming up here soon. You might have that line sweep on through, bring some pretty windy conditions to that part of the area. So we're going to keep an eye over there on that as that line starts to make some of its first impacts here this evening. So watching how that line plays on out. And of course, we are looking for your comments at any time too, just to know what's going on. Jacob, do we got something over there?
Yeah, I figured I'd just chop in real quick, and we're going to talk to Kevin Lighty, who's out in the field here. I've been kind of working on the side, and Kevin's in the field. So let's bring Kevin in real fast, and we can hear more about what's going on. So, Kevin, tell us where you are and what your plan is here as we go into the evening tonight.
All right, so yeah, in the Stormtracker, I'm over in Morgan County right now, and just looking at that line that's kind of coming in. Very linear in nature, obviously. It's just kind of a long, pencil-thin kind of line there, but some gusty winds right on it. And so I'm just kind of waiting for this to approach me. I didn't want to go all the way into Jacksonville and kind of get caught in the traffic in there. So I actually shot a little north on 123, kind of between Jacksonville and then Ashland that goes north. So I'm kind of in between there, just kind of watching this line come in. And just going to see if I see any, embedded circulations or anything that kind of stands out. But right now, we've just got, a little bit of wind here. And we're literally going to be right on the edge of the rain shield that is about to move in. So I've just kind of pulled off onto a side little country road here. We're looking, you're actually looking straight west now. I'm just to the north and west of Jacksonville. And so, it's tough to kind of make anything out. I've not noticed real low cloud bases here. Just looks kind of gray right now. But we'll be kind of watching things and just kind of see this line, see if there's any kinks in it. That's the kind of key thing, is just looking to see if there's any little area that kind of stands out or kind of juts out a little bit. That's kind of been the case throughout much of Missouri today. It hasn't taken much, but they've definitely had a few spots down there where they've had some tornadoes. So we're just going to have to watch this line. Right now, it's stretching basically from up near Beardstown and then south through western portions of Morgan County. And so it's going to be getting a little noisy in Jacksonville here before too long. So we'll monitor things. We're just going to follow it back basically along I-72 and make some deviations as necessary. So we'll kind of continue to keep you up to date. I'm watching the dew points here, because there's literally a warm front that's going right through the middle of Jacksonville and Morgan County right now. And so, it's right along that warm front where sometimes you get just a little extra spin. So something we'll watch for you. We'll keep you up to date. But I got a nice clear view that's just straight west here. So we'll watch some things and see if the winds pick up in the next, half hour or so. But I'm just going to kind of watch this come towards me, and then we'll stay ahead of it and try to follow it back, and then just look for anything that looks a little devious along the line. So for now, in the Stormtracker, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lighty, you guys back in the studio, do your thing, as we know you guys always do, and we'll keep you up to date if we see anything else here through tonight. So back to you.
All right, Kevin, thanks for that. I do have a question real quick again, Kevin. I know you said that you were avoiding Jacksonville. Can you give us another, we're going to pull the radar up and kind of show people where you are. Can you give us another look at the location that you're at again for us, and we'll pinpoint where that is?
So basically, I'm in Morgan County, south of Ashland, east of Jacksonville. It's Highway 123. So basically, I'm right on the leading edge of the precipitation shield. So just north of I-72, I turned off on 123, basically just past the Morgan and Sangamon County line, and I went north on 123. So I'm just south of Ashland, if you have found that.
Yep, we got you.
Looking at 5-6 miles south of Ashland.
So you're a little further north than, still in Morgan County, but far up.
Yep.
A little bit farther up there. Cool. Well, we got you. Okay, Kevin, thanks for that report. We'll check in with you. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning we want to talk about real fast here. And that is going to be including parts of Cass, Menard, and Sangamon counties. Now, Morgan County doesn't have a severe thunderstorm warning at this point. That'll come out here shortly, I think, and be reissued. They had a warning already. I think that's just a technical overlap on their end. But going to get a new warning out for Morgan County here momentarily, according to the National Weather Service. Basically, we're still watching this, still warning this here. For 60 to potentially 70 mile per hour winds. And I'll pull up some of that info. You can see wind speeds of 70 miles per hour, and the hail size is not really a concern here. This isn't a hail threat for us, but there have been some reports of some wind damage and some strong winds with this as well. Now, one thing that stands out to me is if we look at the orientation of this line here, again, Kevin was kind of talking about that warm front. I'll draw this out for you. this straight north-south orientation of the line at this point, not as favorable for tornadic development. Where we see that tornado threat increasing is where you kind of jump between those here. And let me get off of my IFB. I can hear Kevin's getting out of his car here. That orientation kind of jumps a little bit here. That's where that tornado threat is more present, I guess we could say here. So we've got that segment, and then there's another segment kind of here where that segment's a little angled back, and then in this middle area, that's where we're seeing the better chance for these tornadic circulations to appear, and that's where we've got in Schuyler County, that tornado warning. That northern edge just north of Beardstown would not surprise me. There's definitely some strong winds, but that's another area that we have to watch, kind of in this gap here. The reflectivity kind of shows that turbulence. You can see even how the wind, very oriented north-south there with those greens, but this orientation here, what happens is that wind can surge on and ahead of it, and that can help to spin that a little bit more. And so we're seeing that tornado warning, including Rushville, Schuyler County to the north and west. No active tornado warnings in our area. We are just dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings at this point, but that wind is there. Beardstown, I bet that wind is really blowing into town now, down to the south towards Arensville. The western part of Morgan County and even down into Scott County, that leading edge of wind now just past Chapin on 67, becoming into Jacksonville before long, and that's something that we'll keep an eye on here. And looking farther up the line as well, it looks like they've added a tornado warning up in the Iowa-Illinois border, just north of Burlington. Again, the orientation of that, more northwest to southeast, and so similar story there is you're seeing where those kinks in the line that Kevin was alluding to, you can get that wind to surge in front and that in there, and that's going to get you that circulation that can develop there. So as long as we can keep this line segment through our area more vertical, that's good. Not a guarantee, and there are maybe some slight kinks trying to develop there, but that's something that we're going to keep a close eye on and keep monitoring for the little while here with that severe thunderstorm warning. So it does look like as well, I just kind of noticed even Christian County, the very edge of Christian County there west of Taterville, that'd be by the Kincaid area, just shy of that, I think, on 104. Sliver of that included in there. Seth, I know you're kind of watching things as well. You kind of think that is the case here for that. The storm probably more of a wind threat at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. At this stage in the game, I would say the wind threat is the main thing to watch for. But we've kind of talked about before, and we've even seen it in the past, that these lines can obviously change shape very quickly. We can see them be very linear, like this one is here at the moment, very north-south oriented. And then in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes, all of a sudden you can start to see some slight bends, some slight bows within that. And then that's kind of those spots that you watch for that tornado threat to kind of increase there a little bit. So we like that line, kind of straight vertical like that, the way it is, because as Jacob was alluding to, you look at some of the other parts of the line up to our northwest where things are just kind of a little messy, not quite as straight. You've got some tornado warnings up and down into even parts of northwestern Illinois. So we're hoping to avoid that. But one thing that we know that we are going to get in a line like this is some of those strong winds. And these warnings right now, anytime you see a severe thunderstorm warning, it's kind of got this black outline around it that indicates a considerable tag. In this case, that is going to be 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts there on the high end. So again, a lot of this line hasn't really entirely entered the area just yet. We're still talking about the extreme western parts of Cass and Morgan counties is where we are going to be seeing the impacts of those storms here at the moment. But a place like Jacksonville needs to be ready here in the next few minutes, even though these aren't tornado-warned storms. Don't want to catch yourself outside in 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Stuff's just going to toss all over the place, and it's going to be not going to be a fun situation to be outside in. So just kind of in general, if you're in Morgan County, Cass County, just kind of be preparing to take shelter there for at least a little bit as that main line rolls on through. And do we have some updates over there, Jacob?
Yeah, kind of look at the map there. I'll leave your screen up. I'll just bring it full. You can see how those polygons are kind of blotted and overlapping. The National Weather Service is going to clean that up, so we'll see some updates to these polygons to cover things there. It looks like maybe they're having a little bit of a computer technicality where, it's not that areas that are worn don't need to be worn, but they're going to clean up those lines for us to make it a little bit smoother because it does look a little blotted there. But you're under that severe thunderstorm warning. I think you're going to expect some 70-mile-per-hour winds here before long, so we'll see what that looks like. Sometimes it just gets that way with these lines and clusters coming on through, doesn't it, Seth?
Yeah, kind of just trimmed it there, as you were saying. That kind of just rounded a couple of edges there. But they, with kind of these linear storms, too, I know they like to put those downstream warnings or warnings way out ahead of the storm, just to kind of prepare some folks for that. But, yeah, they were kind of mentioning there was a couple of warnings that were not drawn the way they wanted to. So I think they've got those kind of tidied up here right now. So if you're just kind of in the path of these warnings, again, you want to be inside, making sure that you are not near any kind of windows, because again, even though it's not your tornado warning, 70-mile-an-hour winds are definitely not to be played around with, because that will certainly have some impacts of its own. Even if we just kind of toss up some of our velocity products here, look inside the storm and see kind of how the wind is behaving. We talked about how linear it is. You can tell that on this velocity product too, kind of those bright colors, how they're just kind of sharply in a vertical line with some darker colors there on the other side. That kind of just indicates that wind really starting to kind of push out there. And that is the thing that we will feel first with these storms anyway. Maybe some evolution in that as we get deeper into the night and as these storms kind of move on down I-72. But for now, you will see that wind threat primarily before we really see too much else. And just even looking at our storm relative velocity, you can kind of see some rotation just northwest of the area in a place like Rushville. And we've got, where's this at, Jacob? Where
we've got the Jacksonville IDOT cameras. There's 3 cameras that we can get a view up there. So we thought we'd just pop on because those storms are coming on in. There's that first view. There's the second one. There's the third one there. I believe most of those cameras look to the west as well.
I believe so.
It's hard to see really anything. I mean, it's just kind of a dreary gray-looking sky as those storms come on through. So I thought I'd just pull that in. And then we'll pull Kevin's shot back up as well, just to get a peek of where he's at. Just kind of hazy, you know.
Not much contrast.
Yeah. Not going to be a day where you're going to see stuff coming. The other interesting to mention is that, okay, Kevin's going to come in. Let's get Kevin in on here. Hey, Kevin, what do you want to say?
Well, I just want to say something here real quick. So what's interesting about this, if you look at the radar, it's a little different than some of the other looks that we get. The strong line of the intense reflectivity there, runs, right now between Beardstown, Virginia, coming into Jacksonville. But there's a very large rain shield that's ahead of that. I mean, like 15 miles ahead of the line where it's raining. Like where I'm at right now in far eastern Morgan County, there's rain here, but yet the most intense part of that line is 15 miles, 10, 15 miles to my west. So what I mean by that is, so normally you get that, it's clear, and then you get the shelf cloud and you kind of see the winds, but there's a pretty good rain shield ahead of that intense line, 10, 12 miles. So it's kind of deceiving there, because usually, as you know, it's like calm, and then boom, things really pick up. In this instance, you're going to get rain for, 10, 15 minutes before you even get that intense line. So if you can see what I'm talking about on the radar there, some of the lighter reflectivities, the green colors extend a little bit further out than, I guess, kind of what is normal for a squall line, if that kind of makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, it does. And we can hear some of that rain in the background for you. To me, Kevin, I think we had an event, was it early this year, where the same thing, it was kind of these storms were embedded in the rain. Is that kind of, does that ring a bell? Yeah. I mean, and it does. I'm going to see if I can see a little bit of a definition of a shelf. But I'm already in the rain here, and I'm going to see rain for 10 or 15 minutes even before I see those winds kind of start to pick up in my location. So it's a little different. I'm just saying. So normally we can really see a structure. I'm not going to be able to see too much here, because I'm kind of already caught in the rain. The other thing that I will mention, and you might pull this up too if you want, there's not a lot of lightning. I've not heard, there's been a handful of lightning strikes, but for, a normal kind of severe thunderstorm, there's not been as much in the way of lightning strikes. I've seen a few, but that's kind of been a little odd here so far. But we'll watch it. Again, we're looking off here kind of to the north and west, far eastern Morgan County, south of Ashland, and I've got it kind of pointed up to these power lines here. These are kind of some higher tension power lines. And I just want to, I'm going to kind of sit here and watch this line come at me and just kind of watch things, see if we get some movement on these lines and whatnot. And it'll give me kind of an indication of what the wind speeds are, because these are some stronger lines, some taller winds. But you know how it goes. If a wind comes through, it's going to be all 4, 5, 6, 7 of those poles that will go down sometimes if you get a really strong wind. So we still got a little bit here, but again, like I said, I didn't want to get caught in Jacksonville, and just kind of watching this line, and we'll keep you up to date from here. For now, we'll send it back to you in the studio. It was like 262 or something crazy like that.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Sure.
All right, Kevin.
Jackson. Yeah, that strong
7
cell about to come into Jacksonville here on the west side. So we'll see what the winds do there. Like I said, I'm still probably 10, 15 minutes away from that strong wind line. So we'll keep you updated. So we'll get back to you.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Again, we were just taking a look at those lightning strikes. 17 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes. That number jumped to 24 when I widened it to include Macoupin and Montgomery County. And we'll just take one last check of it here. We're 33. We widened that a little bit here. It is not much. We had one storm that was over 200 lightning strikes in 15 minutes. We'll just pass the radar a little bit more north and west. I know this isn't our viewing area, but there are tornado warnings lined up from the Quad Cities down just to the edge of our area here. And I'm going to see if I can get the Davenport radar to work. It wasn't activated, so it might take a minute for it to populate in here. I'm not sure if it's, it just may take a little bit for it to work here. But you can see those tornado warnings lined up north of Burlington and then northwest of Macomb. That'll be just northwest of Western Illinois University. And then the southern one here in Schuyler County in the Rushville area. That one's actually going to expire before long. Then a big line of severe thunderstorm warnings that goes down to the south all the way through St. Louis. And then south of St. Louis, a number of tornado warnings in the southeastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas. That line continues down even into the Shreveport, Louisiana area there as I pull up that radar. So we're kind of in the middle of it here. Got this little segment moving on through. There is certainly some strong wind with that. And that circulation not as obvious in the Rushville area moving northeast. It's definitely a little more ominous signature to me. Northwest of Macomb, that's going towards Roseville. Eventually might be a Galesburg issue. And then coming into the Mercer-Aledo area, southwest of there in far northwest Illinois, another segment where that line is spinning things up. So that certainly is what we'll be keeping an eye on here. Again, Kevin is saying there's not much lightning. Darkness is falling. Again, there's a view of this camera now as the sun is set technically now, I believe. We will not get much of a view of anything. There's one strike. I just got that one on camera. Just got that one on camera, Kevin. That's probably the only strike in the next minute or so, the way things are working there. So that's Kevin's shot there. Really hazy. There's that rain ahead of it, as you can see on radar here. And there's that. That was, I wonder if that was the strike there, Seth. Right east of Virginia. That's right in front of him.
Yeah, definitely would match the location there for sure. And I kind of just want to hit home the point here real quick. Kevin talked about kind of that rain shield out ahead of this actual line of storms. I kind of just used my little distance tool here on radar, kind of from where Kevin is. He's about 12 miles away from the actual leading edge of the severe part of that storm, and he's got plenty of rain. Look kind of down here to the south, though, a place like out there in Mount Auburn, you might be seeing some of that rain already. You're a good 24 miles away from the actual front end of that storm. So just kind of crazy the amount of rain out ahead of it. And that's kind of I shouldn't say kind of, that is not a great thing if you're out there, if you're a spotter, if you're a chaser, because that kind of hinders your view. You can't get the nice kind of photogenic look from a distance where you can kind of see the striations of storms, kind of the leading edge. It basically makes your view a lot more fuzzy and thus makes it a little harder to give some accurate and timely reports there. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially with the sun now also starting to set, starting to lose some of that daylight. One thing to kind of update folks on, since we kind of last checked radar, all of Macoupin County now under a severe thunderstorm warning, as well as this line pretty much all up and down is coded in warnings here at the moment. However, that one in Macoupin County is just warned for a very standard severe weather material, talking about the 60-mile-an-hour gusts and maybe up to quarter-size hail. But as mentioned, not a whole lot of lightning embedded here within these storms. We have definitely seen our fair share of electric storms in the past, but this set kind of not one of them here, at least for now. But we'll kind of see if that picks up a little bit as they try to drive on in. But Jacob, you're kind of looking up and down this whole severe weather threat, kind of threading the needle with the circulations here. There's some to our north. There's some well off to our south. Right now, we're kind of in a happy medium where it looks like things are at least behaving for the moment. That can always change.
Yeah, that's right. For the moment is the key phrase with that here. And if things do get a little more out of hand. Now, I will say this, just because we don't have tornado warnings doesn't mean that we can't deal with severe thunderstorm warnings that produce wind damage out there. There's been some damaging winds with these lines moving on through. And so that is something that we're seeing here. And seeing that line come on through, looks like west of Springfield here. There's that straight orientation. Within that, you get these little mesovortices that can sometimes give you a little enhanced wind there. And sometimes the lightning can illustrate that a little bit more. Now, let's pull up the Jacksonville cameras and take a peek there. That's an interesting view. Oh, I didn't realize I had you still on.
I was still steering around.
there is the Jacksonville IDOT camera now, and that's the storm moving on. And you can start to see some more gray there, some more of that contrast. It looks like it just came through in, this is going to be US 67 and Lincoln in Jacksonville. Much darker look. And then similar story there, Maine and Massey. And then Kevin also is here. Let's talk to Kevin real quick. Kevin, what do you got?
I think Kevin might also be checking with production right now. I think.
Oh, is that what he's doing? Okay.
Yeah, I say that's why I kind of moved out of here a second ago. I think he's just checking with production. But if he's got something,
if you've got something, Kevin, you want to talk?
Yeah.
Go for it, Kevin.
All right. Will do. Thank you.
Nope, he's not talking to us.
Yep.
Ah, man. All right, Kevin. But he's out there. We can see a shot there. That's the view in Jacksonville of the storms coming on through. So going to be some wind likely coming on through. Now, I haven't seen any reports come in. I haven't seen anything initially, but I do know in Western Illinois there has been some wind damage in the Payson area. That's in Adams County. I'll pop up the storm reports. And sometimes it takes us a little time to see what actually happens. You know, those storms might be an hour ahead of the reports as folks start to get out and start checking things out there. So there is some wind damage reports coming from the Quincy Hannibal area, and I'm not sure what kind of gusts that they had. So let me see here. Looks like a thunderstorm wind gust in Hannibal was up to 70 mile an hour, and from two sources reporting that. And then another one there in Monroe City, 60 mile an hour winds with near zero visibility. And so, yeah, there are some reports there. I need to turn Kevin off my ears because I hear him talking to the other folks. There we go. So we are getting some of those wind reports that are coming on in. 60 to 70 is what those warnings are. And I'll pop that back on just so we can see here. So if you thought of some warnings, Menard, Sangamon, Cass, Morgan, and Macoupin counties for this line coming on through. I'm really interested in this little gap area that's over Astoria now, to be honest with you, Seth. Yeah. I know that it's not anything that is showing up as significant, and there's not much circulation showing up, but I don't trust it. I've seen enough of those down in my time in Mississippi where that's an area where sometimes the radar can look like, I guess, hot garbage.
Right.
And you can still have a lot of wind and even some the potential for a tornado there. I wouldn't rule that out as it moves more to the north and east. That's going to be going towards Fulton County, Canton area, Havana, Mason County, and kind of up the river into the Peoria. And then you see as well these spots here in northwest Illinois. We got our radar in the Quad Cities working. And again, that radar orientation of those line segments a little more northwest to southeast. And so it can take advantage of some of that wind shear that's there. And I'll throw the velocity on so you can see what we're talking about there. Couple little spots there. One near Joy, one there southwest of Mercer, moving to the north and east. But you kind of see how there's all these little kinks along that line, even into Iowa. How do you warn all of them? You kind of got to pick the ones you think are the best to produce and then count the rest to be wind with severe thunderstorm warnings. And even if these tornadoes aren't that strong, I mean, severe thunderstorms with 70 mile an hour winds can still produce quite a bit of damage. But that's something to consider with this as these storms move on through. We're going to keep watching. Looks like that wind now, that leading edge into the Jacksonville area. And as it continues to move off to the east, I don't know, Seth, if you've gotten any other reports?
The only other thing I saw, National Weather Service relayed that in Rushville, gusts of only 45 miles an hour, so not quite as intense that direction. I know that's a little out of our area, but that's the only kind of report we've gotten from them at the moment. But like you kind of said, Jacob, with this line being so north-south oriented, you kind of just look for any one spot that looks a little different than that because you kind of trust everything else is behaving, at least at this moment in time. So, yeah, just kind of watching spots toward north and west. And like you showed just a moment ago, there's just little bitty kind of discontinuities there in the wind that are kind of worth monitoring here as this line continues to approach. But I got lots of folks here, a handful in the Jacksonville area that talked about wind has really picked up there and, of course, raining quite a bit. So, of course, we'll take any sort of report that you have if you are here in the chat and you're feeling some of the storms right now. But I know many of you are not feeling the storms, and I'm seeing quite a few comments there just about, what about this town? What about this town? We're kind of just dealing around the I-55 area here at the moment. These storms will progress east through the night, but if you're in a place like Decatur, Champaign, Mattoon, Charleston, Shelbyville, you're not going to see a whole lot here for the next at least 30 minutes to an hour. So things are looking pretty clean. So this line's going to take a little bit of time as it moves on through. I haven't checked in a moment, but I will right now to see what kind of a storm motion we have here with some of these storms to see kind of how fast they will progress here. And if we take a look, if we can find it here, they're moving northeast-ish at about 50 miles an hour. So they've got some giddy up to them, but it'll still take just a little time.
And I think the issue with that is while the individual storms are moving northeast at 50-something, 50 to 60, that east-west movement that we probably care about a little more is a little bit slower in there.
Correct.
So that's why they aren't moving all that fast, but you see the whole line kind of lifting to the north. I do want to pull up real quick, Seth, and you can kind of confirm for me here. We just got an update on that tornado risk, the SPC's update, and that did pull that 4. That pulled it a little more to the east, I think, didn't it?
It did, definitely. The 4, I think, was just barely touching Cass and Morgan, so they really kind of dragged that along here with that 7:30, 7:45 update, whichever one that was. So, yeah, kind of not out of the woods here, even though things look innocent at the moment. Storm Prediction Center, of course, follows things very closely, so they've dragged that risk along the area as it continues to move east. So still plenty to watch here, even though we don't have any active tornado warnings in the area just yet. This linear complex will still be supportive of that over the next couple of hours. That's exactly why you've got that tornado watch in effect across pretty much the same counties that you see highlighted there in that yellow graphic are the ones that have the current tornado watch. And we'll kind of see as time goes on, as these storms kind of progress to the east, potentially weaken. We'll see if that watch warrants extension out there to the east. But at least for now, you're kind of seeing, that general 4 out of 10, at least along the I-55 region and just a little bit off to the east. So obviously
it kind of matches where the tornado watch is. You're right.
It's exactly. And I'll even pull that watch up here real quick. You'll notice very, very little difference in that coverage area. So they kind of just drag that there to match the tornado watch box that is set to expire at 11 p.m. So still got about 3 hours to go in those counties highlighted in yellow. But again, places to the east, you're not out of the woods just because you're not included in the tornado watch. They can always kind of tack places onto that. And you can even have a tornado when there is not a tornado watch. A lot of the time, they like to have confidence that there's going to be kind of more than one spot to watch for a tornado. And that's why they do these kind of more aerial watches. So we'll still monitor that. We tend to think the risk of that will decrease through the night. But as you just saw, they're kind of tugging things to the east just a little bit. So even though that will likely happen at some points, may not happen quite as early as some initial predictions were showing there. So there's your watch box at the moment. So we'll pop back here on radar and just kind of see what's going on here. Yeah, sounds like we've got Kevin. Kevin's got a report out there. He's well off to the west.
I see that. Coming
Kevin,
up
let
to him
us
pretty
know
quick there. Yeah.
what you're seeing right now.
So let's go to Kevin.
Yeah. So I'm actually finally starting to see, a little bit of that, shelf cloud there, the kind of the edge of it, kind of see the lowering area, the contrast there between, kind of the lower, kind of whitish, grayish color, than kind of the darker color here. And so I'm probably, that's the leading edge of where the gusts are going to be and where some of that really heavy, intense rain is. And so I just kind of wanted to show you that, if you guys can see that contrast a little bit better now. So it's not just that kind of typical gray shield there. So I'm going to have that thing kind of pass right over the top of me here in the next probably 5 or so minutes. And it is going to kick up the winds pretty good for us. We'll see if there's any hail. It looks like there was maybe a little bit of hail there, kind of the northern edge up there towards the Litterbury area, kind of east of there, and heading maybe up towards Ashland. But we'll see if there's any hail in here. But like I said, I'm about to get eaten up by this line of storms that's coming right at me. And unfortunately, of course, it's getting dark now, so we're going to lose all visibility here before too long. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys that view and let you know that this thing's a few minutes away from coming over the top of me, and we'll kind of give you a report and let you know what we see as this kind of comes through, and try to give at least maybe a little bit of an estimate of those winds. But it's coming at me, and it's going to be on top. You're probably not going to be able to see a whole lot here in just a little bit, because that rain is really going to be kind of kicking down. So I may even reposition here a little bit, because there's a little bit more of kind of that shelf lowering here. Let me just kind of turn the car a little bit, and you can see right there. So we'll continue to keep you up to date, and I know it's getting dark. You're not going to be able to see a whole lot here, but we'll let you know how things fare in the next few minutes.
All right, thanks for that report, Kevin. And that's look where Kevin's at now. He's south of Ashland there, between 72 and Ashland. That'd be just north of Alexander, northeast of Jacksonville. And that leading edge of wind is approaching his location. So that shelf cloud he was looking at is right there. The next radar update we get is likely going to take that and move it to about here. And that should be coming pretty quick, as it's starting to move to the east there Northeast about 55. That's going to translate to the east about 40, 45 mile an hour. And so Kevin should be able to probably ride 72 to the east and keep up with things here as it moves on. And I'll bring his shot one more time here. And again, the darkness is falling. We can still see that shelf roll on in, and we might just eavesdrop in occasionally as he's getting ready to reposition. Certainly not the most organized look, but again, remember, there's that rain shield that he's been dealing with rain the last 15, 20 minutes and ahead of that. And so this is kind of buried in there. But that shelf cloud is where we would expect to see the wind pick up a bit as it starts to overtake him and move off to the east and to the northeast. I also don't know, Seth, if our Springfield camera yet is going to pick up much, but as long as we've got that.
Kind of keep an eye on it there in the distance. I may need to kind of point a little more pure west so that way we can kind of keep a better eye on what's going on in that tower cam. But one thing for sure with the Springfield cam is that when it gets windy, we will know that it is getting windy because that one likes to flail around quite a bit there in some strong wind gusts. Another thing I want to pass along, National Weather Service mentioned that they, over the next couple of hours, they're watching the wind threat as it overtakes I-55. They mentioned an expansion of the current tornado watch may be warranted, so they didn't completely confirm anything there with that, but even kind of alluding to that point, there may need to be some sort of extension area-wise there as that line pushes off to the east. If it continues to display the same kind of potential that it is, at least at the moment. So we'll see how that plays itself out here as we start to get this line to move deeper into the area, start to move into some more populated towns here within our area, mainly Springfield, as that line is still several minutes away, but marching off there to the east at a good 50-ish miles per hour. So be prepared if you are there in the Springfield area, probably already getting a little bit of rain. As we mentioned, that rain shield just kind of well out ahead of all these main storms here. It's kind of this general area where you're seeing that green just left of the word Springfield there. So this kind of general stuff out here way ahead of that front line where the strongest winds are at the moment. We will go ahead and toss back on our velocity and just kind of show you where those strongest winds are at the moment. Kind of lines up there with the leading edge of those red and orange colors that you saw in reflectivity. So pretty bright colors. And as we start to get even closer to the Lincoln radar, that indicates that things are still pretty close to the surface. So if these storms are warned the way they are for up to 70 mile an hour wind gusts, you will definitely feel some form of that as this front line continues to push on in, but still very north-south oriented nature, just kind of a couple of bends here and there, nothing that is immediately alarming, but that's exactly why we're kind of monitoring that tornado threat, because within these lines, you start to get some of those bends. That's where you kind of pay attention to the potential for some rotation to eventually kind of single itself out from that line, and it'll become a little noticeable if that were to happen. But at the moment, these storms, as they get ready to enter on into the I-55 region, they are mainly linear and kind of got some gusty conditions. And I can even just hear in my ear right now, sounds like Kevin is starting to get smacked there in his location in a far northeastern Morgan County, and that rain really picking up there. We at least can hear it, his shot kind of going in and out here just a little bit. But I'm sure if you are anywhere close to where Kevin is, you're sensing the same thing, that heavy rain, maybe even that wind starting to pick up as well. We'll even throw back on your reflectivity, just kind of give you an illustration there. So he's kind of in the far northeastern part of the county, and that's exactly where you can see those deep reds and even some of those maroon colors as some heavy rain is moving on through. That heavy rain not going to last for too long, but while it's directly on top of you, you can definitely feel it, and it can be hard to see out there, especially in the nighttime when you're just kind of relying on your windshield wipers to get you through. So even though that doesn't take up a whole lot of real estate on the radar, some tough storm conditions to definitely be out there. And Jacob, you got something?
Yeah, I just want to check. I think Kevin can hear us because I know we can't hear him very well with the rain. I'm not sure if Kevin is on camera 8 or if he's on the other camera. And maybe we're just having some trouble hearing him. He's honest. He's kind of cutting in and out. I think he's just having bad service right now. We're not.
Yeah, his image is coming in pretty good when he actually shows him in the car. His sound's kind of going in and out, but we can see him pretty good. Yeah, his shot isn't necessarily.
There you are, Kevin. What you got?
The sound's coming in pretty good now too. Kevin, you just want to tell us what you have to go through there right now?
Yeah. So you can probably hear the rain. I think it's just so is obviously turn my lights on.
All right, Kevin, we're having a little trouble hearing
Right
you. Your audio keeps cutting in and out a little bit. I'm not sure if there's maybe something between you and the mic or whatnot, but we're seeing you, and
it might
we're
be
kind of
just the
hearing.
heavy rain. The
It
rain's
could
coming
be.
down.
Yeah, that could be what it is, but it seems like it's cutting in and out a little bit. So between that or the signal, not sure what it is, but we can definitely hear that rain, Kevin. I mean, it's raining pretty good where you are.
Yeah, it's coming down a pretty good clip here. I don't know if I'm still kind of cutting in and out or not for you, but rain's coming down. Just kind of letting this line kind of overtake me for now, and then we'll try to get back out ahead of it. I just kind of wanted to get an estimate of some of those winds as they came through. So, but lightning definitely did pick up, obviously in the middle of this line, but you got those real strong gusts of winds right there leading on the leading edge of it. I think you guys got a new tornado watch extension there, so we'll let you guys kind of talk about that. It looks like maybe an extension to the tornado watch.
Yeah, we don't quite have that in our graphics yet.
I think
So
it
it
just
looks like
popped in on
it
mine,
just
if you
popped
don't
in on
mind.
yours. We'll get it here and pop that up. So we'll pull Kevin off real fast. There's that tornado watch. It's been pulled a little more to the east. It's going to include now Decatur, Bloomington, Monticello, Sullivan, Shelbyville added to that. Some of those counties to the east. I don't think the tornado watch is going to go much further to the east than that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you would agree with that. It seems like once these storms get to I-57, they should be weakening, but they have pulled that a little bit to the east, so that's something to watch. All right, I'm going to run through the state real quick.
Yeah.
So let me do that.
I think I see what you're seeing right now too.
Yeah, so a number of tornadoes and tornado warnings there. Let's go for Northwest Illinois. This is not our television market, but into the Quad Cities, there's a strong circulation coming in. And as I zoom in here, that's going to be to the west of, south of, right here is Mercer area. And there's Mercer. It's to the northwest of Mercer, right in this area, Buffalo Prairie. A little kink in the line there. I'll pop the velocity on. We'll see that clear as day. That's probably going to be a tornado before long, if it's not already coming into the Quad Cities area. So that's going to be the Eddington, Andalusia, coming into Davenport, places like that in far northwest Illinois. We go down the line a little bit. Now a confirmed tornado warning in the Roseville area, south of Monmouth to the north of Macomb here. And I don't know, I haven't seen how they confirmed that, but I'm guessing
enforcement, I read.
Law enforcement confirmed. So that one there is in place, and that's going to be for Warren County. So that'll be heading northeast towards Galesburg before long. We go a little further down the line, then still just severe thunderstorm warnings for our area, but they did just add a update to the severe thunderstorm warning there, kind of cleaning up for Menard, Sangamon, Cass, Morgan counties. Jacksonville's all clear. Virginia, Beardstown, Maridosia, all clear. We're coming into the Macoupin County area with that leading edge of the line. And then south of St. Louis, things are really getting interesting down there as we see some really strong circulations. This is going to be in the Waterloo area. I would be willing to bet that's a tornado coming into Waterloo momentarily in southwestern Illinois. You can see the strong couplet on our radar, those reds and greens coming together, indicating the tornado. And we'll see if there's anything showing up in the debris signature. Kind of muddled a little bit, but that'll be something to watch. If you know someone down in Waterloo, up into the southeast of St. Louis towards Mascoutah, Belleville, New Athens, places like that in southwest Illinois. And there's another tornado warning down the line as well, south of that, coming into the Chester, Sparta area. And that's going to be right now on the Missouri side of the line. It's going to be coming pretty close to Kaskaskia as it moves to the northeast. So there's a tornado warning down there as well. So we may have potentially here in the next few minutes 2 or 3 tornadoes down in the state at the same time. And so far, none in our viewing area, which is a good thing here. Kind of looking to keep an eye. Again, we have to watch these little surges. Looking in the Ashland, Tallulah area, certainly some wind there. We'll see. So far, nothing stands out to me, but that's maybe, if you see that here, maybe trying to surge out a little bit north of Ashland. That's going to carry northwest of Petersburg, I think, in northern Menard County. Probably going to be some wind regardless here. That's the only thing that I see. And velocity doesn't really show much with it yet. But this point, going to be some strong winds now. We're moving that wind now into Menard and Sangamon County with some 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts, a possibility of those storms as they move on through. So that's kind of the statewide view, and I'll pop that tornado watch. You can see here where that is across the state. We're from the Quad Cities through the western half of our viewing area down into southern Illinois, and a tornado watch is lined up all the way to northeast Texas from these storms rolling on through. So it's kind of the system moving on through. Seth, let's pull up that. I'll send it over to you. We'll pull up that Springfield camera as well, and let you talk about what's going on over there.
Yeah, right now at the moment, from what you can see here, the camera just bobbing around a little bit. Have seen some pretty impressive lightning there in the distance, so that's kind of why I just want to pop this up, see if we can kind of tell that in the distance. Not very electric storms overall, but we'll kind of spy on this one as we look off to the west, as some storms are soon moving there into the Springfield area. Still have a little bit of time before that takes place, but the leading edge of that storm now in the far western part of the county, so maybe a place like New Berlin. Getting ready to feel the impacts there, the strong gusts along the front of that storm. But as we kind of just look on, doesn't look too bad there in Springfield yet, but the kind of calm before the storm, so we are expecting things to ramp up there within a matter of just maybe 15 or 20 minutes or so. Let's kind of just reset things and look at the overall radar picture here across central Illinois. As mentioned, there's some action to our north and west. There's some action off to our south. There's not a whole lot of intriguing features here immediately in the area. Like we've been saying through the night, that doesn't suggest that we're going to keep it that way, but it at least means up to this point in time, we are kind of dodging the worst of it. But this line, you just got to kind of study it. You got to keep your eyes on it to see if things are going to change there rather quickly. Still got a number of people kind of just asking about some impacts there out in front of this line. Right now, this storm, this line of storms is warned for primarily 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. They do mention some hail in there as well, but it's the 70-mile-an-hour gusts that are going to bring the most of the impacts here as they start to approach your town or city. Again, we're still well to the west, I should say, of I-55 at the moment, so still kind of waiting to enter that corridor. But we've still got a handful of minutes here, 15 or 20 minutes before things start to move there into the downtown Springfield region. So that's what we're studying here in our immediate area. Of course, have to watch things off to our south as well, just to see if anything's going to kind of sneak into the area. Yeah, the tornado warnings just kind of splitting the gap here at the moment. We'll even throw on, as I mentioned earlier, not very electric storms. You can kind of see the lightning pretty scattered. Even some of those dimmer bolts that you were seeing, kind of some of those older ones. Again, these storms are not producing those left and right. So if you're just kind of hanging out at home, looking out your window, expecting to see some lightning to know when the storms are going to get there, you're probably not going to see too much of that. Maybe a couple if you're looking at the right time. And funny I say that. I think Kevin got himself quite a bit of lightning there on his shot. Right as I said, the lightning is few and far between. So he had he had pretty orange purple looking sky there for just a moment as he's continuing to navigate around those storms. Looks like he may have gotten out of the worst of it there for at least the time being, but he's continuing
through it.
So Kevin says he's getting ready to kind of drive back through it there.
Yeah, he's heading off to the east now on 72.
Gotcha.
And going to be going towards New Berlin and eventually Springfield. So he'll be making his way generally in our direction, I think. But the entire time we've been on him, I haven't seen any lightning. And I know the second we pull away, we'll see a flash on there. Kevin, how are the road conditions? How are things looking out there with that rain coming on through? We'll send it to you real fast.
Yeah, so I'm back on I-72 here. I'm going to be coming up to the Sangamon and Morgan County line. And as you can see in the distance, there are a bunch of vehicles way up in front of me, and they've got their hazard lights on. And that's most likely because of the heavy rain that they've kind of been encountering as they've been driving east on I-72. And so I'm getting ready to punch back through. Basically, we call it core punching the storm here again. And so what I went through just 15 minutes ago, I'm going to drive back through to try to get back ahead of the line, basically west of Springfield. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So again, the lightning every once in a while, you get a nice little bolt every once in a while. But for the most part, again, traffic is slowing down here a little bit. You got to be careful here when you're driving along because obviously some people are going to go slower than others. And so you just kind of have to pay attention and know that, like the vehicle in front of me is going quite a bit slower, which is good. Do what you got to do. But just be careful if you do slow down a bunch and if you do pull over to the side or whatnot, make sure you don't go and get underneath underpasses and whatnot, as that is obviously kind of a big danger. So you can see the car to my left that just passed me, they're going a lot faster than the car that they're getting there to pass up here. So you just got to kind of be careful. So we'll continue to keep you up to date. And again, I'm getting ready to get into the thick of it again. We'll try to get ahead of it just before Springfield. In the meantime, we'll send it back to you for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. We'll continue to keep an eye on your shot there and kind of just see what you're seeing as you kind of head back there into the main part of that storm. So that's kind of the similar conditions. If you're anywhere up and down this main line here in the area, that's what you're dealing with. Kind of interest is well off to our south, kind of getting ready to, or already has crossed over here into far southwestern Illinois. There's some pretty impressive rotation signatures down that direction, kind of talking near the Waterloo area. Just kind of look at that. That's a lot better of a signature than we've seen anywhere up and down our line. So we're avoiding that for now, but you can see the northeast trajectory of those warnings do eventually bring it towards the area at some point. Lots can change between now and then, but definitely something to kind of just have on the back burner there to keep in mind. These storms that are displaying way more rotation than ours will need to be kept track of.
And that southern storm down by St. Genevieve coming into the Kaskaskia area eventually, let's see, that's going to be Randolph County. Spotters reporting a tornado with power flashes with that southern storm. I tend to think, so we look at the debris signature, we don't see a whole lot on that stuff. The radar data is compromised, but I tend to think there's probably a very decent chance of the northern storm that just went through Waterloo, perhaps some sort of chance of a tornado, if not very close, that just went southeast of Waterloo and carried off. So I think both those are really potent storms. You can see in the velocity, it's clear as day where it is, but we're just not getting good signature for, it's going to take some spotters to see that or some reports of damage in there. So we'll keep an eye down there at those southern storms. But
they actually did confirm that one you're talking about.
That one there, spotters just reported that St. Genevieve coming into the Illinois area. So that's going to be down by Kaskaskia. If you're familiar with that area, it's moving in that general direction, if not just north of there into Randolph County. So both those storms down there, probably the most impressive storms in the state. Though those storms as well up north, I think, are still interesting to see coming into the Quad Cities as well. We'll see how things shake. But if we keep the things going the way they are, Seth, we might just deal with some strong winds out there. And hopefully we keep it that way. I would not complain. But if not, we're here.
Yeah, so that would be great if we could just kind of split the gap, both north and south. Winds, strong winds, 70 miles an hour, they will impact you. They will pack a little bit of a punch, but they are obviously a lot better than dealing with some impressive rotation signatures and obviously some of those confirmed tornadoes that we're seeing well off to our south. So, yeah, just kind of primarily dealing with some strong winds here at the moment. What I'm even going to do, we'll take a look and see what the most recent reports on how fast these are moving. So these are going still around 50-ish miles an hour. Let's kind of just grab the leading edge of those strongest gusts. And what I'll do is I'll use my little squall tool here. We'll kind of just track out where some of these strongest winds are heading. Let's get it back on reflectivity here. That'll make it just a little easier. It overlaps right there with those brighter greens. So what I'm going to do is kind of take this little core of the storm as it moves on into Sangamon County. I'm talking about this little part right here. Grab our tool, line it up there with the front edge of that storm. Just kind of drag it off to the east. Again, moving at 50 miles an hour, we should be able to get a number of estimations here for where you could start to see those strong gusts pop up into your area. So we're seeing a place like Chatham at around 824. So within the next 10 minutes or so, that's when some of the stronger gusts are on their way through there. You can see a place like Rochester closer to 830. So still got about 15 or 20 minutes there at the very edge of this squall. But if you kind of see your town listed there, it's kind of the timing you expect to see some of those strongest winds. And of course, some of that heavy rain start to enter your area as well. But that is not the worst thing to be dealing with here right now. As we've mentioned, kind of up and down this line of storms, there's severe weather all throughout the line, but some places are seeing that tornado threat a little higher than we are at the moment, even though we will have to continue to watch that moving forward just because there's at least enough confidence to expand that tornado watch to some of our counties closer to the I-57 region. But we tend to think that as these storms keep making progress out that way, that will not quite be the same threat. But we've had a pretty consistent forecast here over the last 24 hours, and we're even starting to see that kind of just change a little bit here with the way things are playing out. So, of course, nothing is ever set in stone, even when you kind of start to have a feeling that maybe things are looking good. You know how weather is. That can change in a very quick manner. So keep an eye on velocity there. Again, those strongest winds passing through already the New Berlin area, heading down 72. Place like Springfield, maybe got another 10 or 15 minutes or so before it really heads into the downtown area. We've got eyes on the Springfield camera there in the distance as well. So when I start to see things pick up there, we will certainly look. We can even just look right now and see that kind of innocent looking there in the distance. Again, if you're just kind of on the edge of town and you are looking outside your window at home, you're probably not seeing too much. I'll even pull it full screen here so you can get a kind of a better look. If you're just kind of looking out your window, you can't really see much. Of course, it's nighttime now. There's not a whole lot of definition up there in the sky, and there's not a whole lot of lightning either. Usually lightning kind of illustrates the skyline a little bit, kind of gives you a sneak peek or a snapshot of what the actual leading edge of the storm looks like. You can't really see that here without the lightning. So it's just going to kind of, in the blink of an eye, all of a sudden really pick up there when those storms move on through. So we've had this, there we go. There's the first bit of lightning in a while that we've seen. So had the eye on the camera for a good 60 seconds there and only saw maybe one or two real indications of lightning on the Springfield camera, despite there being a severe horned storm for 70-mile-an-hour gusts getting ready to move on through there as these storms approach the I-55 region. Of course, with being Easter Sunday, lots of folks out and traveling. Hopefully they are kind of where they want to be for the nights already, because if you're moving up and down I-55, it is going to get a little busy here as that wind threat starts to move on through. And so anybody traveling may have to kind of find the nearest exit, pull over, and kind of just ride this one out for a little bit as those strongest winds get ready to push on through. We're going to head and toss back up our velocity, just kind of keeping an eye on our particular parts of this line of severe storms, just kind of checking in to see. It's kind of the stuff that you watch for. We're looking kind of north of, I believe that's Menard County there. Just kind of looking off to the north. You can kind of see a little bit of change in the wind pattern there. We don't kind of have those straight vertical shapes there with the greens and the reds. We're kind of starting to see a little bit of a clash of those there. Doesn't indicate anything just yet, but those are kind of the what we call areas of interest that you need to monitor to see how those kind of play out. Maybe they start to tighten up a little bit, and that's when you start to see some of those circulations. So we're kind of watching that particular feature up to our north. As you kind of see this line no longer completely north-south oriented. You can kind of just see the slightest bend in there closer to Easton, just north of Menard County. And other than that, you can kind of see most of this line has that pretty pure vertical orientation. But any bits of that line certainly can change here at a moment's notice. What I'll do here real quick, too, is just kind of scan our National Weather Service chat and see if they are putting anything out there worth noting as far as their future plans with some of these storms. And it looks like they're kind of mentioning just how some of the dynamics here are still supportive of that severe weather as this line continues to move on east. Damaging wind gusts and a brief tornado or two still remain possible over the next 1 to 2 hours. That's from their words, exactly from the data that they can see. So that's exactly why, even though things may look a little innocent at the moment, we continue to kind of pay attention to see as that moves into a different environment, progresses east through the nights, kind of just how those storms interact and how they are set to evolve. If you are seeing anything where you are, kind of let us know where you're watching us from and what you're experiencing out there. Chances are a lot of you aren't experiencing anything just yet, because I know we've got plenty of viewers there in places like Champaign, Decatur, Danville, Mattoon, Charleston, where there's nothing there quite yet. But if you are kind of the western portion of the area, kind of in the Springfield area, keep us updated on what you're seeing, because, of course, we've got Kevin out there. We've got a number of spotters that we can kind of get reports from, but nothing's better than you, the viewers, actually kind of feeding us what you're seeing. That helps us to kind of pinpoint where some of the worst of these storms are at. And right now, the worst of the storms are just outside of the area, both to the north and to the south, where it looks like the Quad Cities is dealing with a little bit of a mess, and it looks like there's even a tornado warning there heading straight into the Quad Cities region. So you can kind of see where things aren't quite the same linear shape that we have here. That's where they are a lot busier. And again, we're not seeing a whole lot of indications on velocity that look like this locally. So that's kind of the stuff you watch whenever you try to get those circulations to kind of come together and kind of present that higher tornado risk. But you just kind of look up and down our area. Again, this feature looking a little interesting. This is kind of the stuff you watch for just outside of maybe Mason City there. So just kind of watching to see how the wind pattern there kind of takes shape, see if that's going to go anywhere. That could potentially be something for the northwest part of Logan County, if that kind of brings itself together as that pushes off to the east. So we're keeping an eye on that. If you're out that direction, just something to monitor there, because other than that, up and down our current line, just some strong winds, and not trying to discount strong winds, because that is definitely impactful. But we still have that tornado risk, even though we haven't seen a whole lot of evidence that there is some of that actual rotation there within some of the storms. What I'll do here real quick too is bring up that tornado watch that we've been talking about a little bit here. Got some folks kind of asking about what's to be expected where they live. The general thoughts right now is that's the far eastern edge of this tornado watch is probably all the farther east it's going to end up. Again, mentioned it several times, those storms are likely to weaken as they kind of exit the I-55 region and get closer to that I-57 region, just not quite as much to work with in the atmosphere as we get farther and farther that direction. So there's your current tornado watch. They did expand that within the last half hour to kind of give a few extra counties some inclusion into that. And we'll pop back up here on our radar. Still not seeing a whole lot in Springfield just yet on our sky cam anyway. Next to the Capitol, we've got just a little bit of wind, some raindrops, but still nothing quite yet, even though we're talking about just a matter of minutes there before that really starts to move through the main part of the city of Springfield. So if you're anywhere in the Springfield area or kind of surrounding neighborhoods, just kind of be prepared to hunker down here for just a little bit. Again, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts are not something to be messed around with. So we'll see as that enters Springfield. And again, we've got a good shot of the Springfield sky cam that will kind of let you see what's going on in there as that starts to go down. So continuing to kind of monitor what everyone's saying in the chat here. Keep an eye on what National Weather Service is saying. Other than those strong winds, again, there's not a whole lot of features to kind of hone in on other than this one. Again, just barely north of the area, which we actually have a pretty good read on closer to the surface, because that is getting closer to that Lincoln radar. So just watching that feature with interest near the Mason City area. You kind of just see things digging back just a little bit. We don't have that pure straight up and down line anymore. We're kind of starting to see some nooks there in the wind pattern. So that will be stuff to kind of have to monitor and see if that changes with time there. A lot of our warnings, though, at the moment, just out there for 60 to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Really not a whole lot of hail, really not a whole lot of lightning. There is some heavy rain, but you can see the line is very thin. So that rain is not going to last forever either. We're going to kind of zoom things out, give you a little reset here if you're just kind of tuning in, trying to figure out what all's happening here. We've got storms up and down the I-55 region here at the moment. You can kind of see that here on radar as we look, getting ready to enter into the Springfield area. And it kind of is perfectly getting ready to hug that I-55 region. So we're kind of passing through that first main part of the area. So up and down the interstate there is where we're going to be seeing some of the strongest winds and the highest impacts here, at least at the moment. And it looks like we're starting to get some gusts to pick up there on the Springfield cam. So I'm going to go ahead and toss that on there and let you kind of take a look at that full screen here for just a moment as things are kind of quickly ramping up there in the Springfield area. The camera getting ready to kind of bob around there just a little bit. So nothing too crazy just yet, but that storm mere minutes away from moving into town. And I'm sure plenty of you will be able to feel what's happening. Again, not a whole lot of heads up with these storms just because the lack of lightning. So you're not going to see a whole lot of evidence of it moving on in as it starts to get closer and closer to you. So keep an eye on the Springfield camera as storms getting ready to move on in, and continuing to just check any kind of social media here and some of your chats to see if you've got anything to report. It looks like we're starting to adjust a couple of our severe thunderstorm warnings here. So let's go back to our radar and check out what's happening with those warnings. Looks like they've kind of pushed things farther to the east. So now we've got parts of Christian County and Logan County included in this main severe thunderstorm warning. And if we click in on those, looks like those maximum wind gusts are now only warned for 60 miles an hour in that far eastern warning. So a little bit of anticipation that maybe those gusts will come down in nature, but still, widespread 60-mile-an-hour gusts will be enough to kind of toss some things around, cause a little bit of damage. But we've kind of seen that kind of that demotion from the 70-mile-an-hour gusts that were kind of warned here within the storm earlier into the evening. So watching those downstream warnings, places like Lincoln now included in that, even the far eastern part of Sangamon County, just outside Taylorville. Don't think Taylorville's quite involved in that warning just yet, even though they are right there on the edge. There's some of your recent detections of lightning. Again, just not a whole lot. Even in this main core, this part about to hit Springfield, there's just nothing reported here within the last several minutes. So, yeah, again, not going to have a whole lot of heads up there. Not going to have illumination in the sky to show you that leading edge. It's just going to kind of show up. It's going to get windy. And the rain's just going to start pouring down, almost like the storm is kind of disguising itself there. You will not be able to really tell. It's kind of sneaking up on us as it gets a little closer there. Still worth noting is some storms off to our south as well. You know, it's not in the area. Got to really pay attention to these storms that are a lot more tornadic than any kind of indication that we are getting here in our immediate area. Even that confirmed tornado just outside of the Belleville area as well. So just kind of watching features like that and storms just outside of the area as they kind of move to the northeast. That will eventually lift into our area. Might have a completely different look to it as it does so. But look at those rotation signatures down here to the south. This is just a lot more powerful than anything we are seeing here locally. We just don't have that same kind of indication on velocity, except in just a few spots here and there. But even those are just outside of the area, so we're still continuing to split the gap. But you can tell the contrast in the velocity pattern here, where exactly those strongest winds are right now, as they kind of push through most of Menard County, about halfway through Sangamon County right now, just minutes outside of the Springfield area. And that continues to stretch all the way down into parts of Macoupin County as well. So preparing for wind, hopefully that's the only thing we really have to deal with here over the next several hours. But of course, things can change in a hurry, and that's why we're here to kind of keep an eye on things with you. We are at 8:29 p.m., so almost about half past the hour here. We are a good 90 minutes into our severe weather event here right now, and so far we are kind of keeping things at bay here a little bit. Obviously, some windy storms that we're tracking, and it's still getting ready to kind of pass over the I-55 area, so still kind of hitting that first milestone as far as where those storms are at in the area. But right now, there's just better features elsewhere in the state. And we've got Kevin out there as well as he continues to kind of race with that line of storms that is soon to enter into the Springfield area as well.
Yeah, he's on the south side of Springfield.
There you go. So he's on
where
the
he's at now,
south side of Springfield. So we're watching his view. He's kind of out there ahead of that storm. He's kind of passed through it and now is ahead of the path of it. So we'll continue to monitor his view, hear any reports that he has to say here at any point.
Kevin, you want to talk for a little bit?
Yeah, Kevin, if you can hear us and you're ready to go. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so just kind of getting back ahead of the storm, kind of punched through the core of it to get ahead of it. And I got to tell you, it was not the easiest thing to do when you're driving through a driving rain. Shield of rain that we talked about, that's ahead of that intense line of rain. So I'm kind of like in that view here. So I'm on I-72, just kind of going back to the east. I'm going to be kind of cutting ahead of it here and kind of watching things. So I'm basically going to be heading back towards Macon County here. There is a thought, potentially, we've been kind of watching that cell that's kind of coming out of the St. Louis area. I'll be kind of monitoring that and making a last second judgment call. Maybe when I get into Macon County there, if I want to kind of head south, if I want to head towards portions of Christian County and whatnot. But right now I'm just traveling back east, getting back ahead of the line. I'll be honest, have not seen anything too impressive here just yet, but it is something definitely to monitor. We're keeping an eye on things. There are going to be some stronger winds ahead of it and right on that leading edge of that heavy precipitation shield. So we'll just continue to keep you up to date here as we continue to basically shoot back here to the east on I-72. We're in Springfield right now, and we're going to get on the exit to go back towards Decatur and then just kind of watch and see if I'm just not seeing anything of real concern as far as on the radar that's really standing out as far as in the circulations. But as we've been mentioning, there things can change. Definitely seems to be kind of weaker south of Springfield, and then you just suddenly kind of get that little line segment that's kind of coming out of what is that, O'Fallon area, where they've got that tornado warning. That seems to be like the one kind of anomaly, and that the thing that kind of sticks out. But we'll see what we get here as this continues to march off to the east, and we'll keep you up to date here in the Stormtracker. Right now, just some heavy, kind of steady rain here, and we'll send it back to you for now.
All right, so thank you very much, Kevin. We'll continue to keep an eye on your shot there and see what happens out that direction. One thing I want to bring up, already trimming parts of the tornado watch. Cass and Morgan County, you are off the hook there for the tornado watch as the worst of these storms have pushed on through your neck of the woods. So as that initial line tries to move on through, for some places, we'll see that watch trimmed. Of course, once that line kind of gets through the Christian Montgomery County areas, still need to watch those storms just off to your south and west. So maybe not the same kind of treatment there for some of the other places that have storms still in the distance, but already 2 counties off the board there for your tornado watch. And we kind of even noted the radar image here, just the basic reflectivity just doesn't look quite as good as what it did there as those storms entered in. And that was kind of the theory all throughout the day, was that things were going to kind of weaken as it entered the area. And we're seeing that here as things start to march across the I-55 area. We're starting to get some raindrops there on the Springfield camera as well. Still nothing crazy popping up there on the camera, and nothing too notable at the moment. So we will continue to have that off there in the corner. But yeah, right now, kind of just getting the weakest part of the storms here, at least this whole line, even places like Macoupin and Montgomery County, where you do have thunderstorm activity, even that's not warned down that direction. So still getting some sub-severe stuff here in the area. So largely kind of just splitting the gap here for now. And still seeing those 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, I think, is what we're looking at right now. Not quite the widespread 70-mile-an-hour we were seeing earlier. Maybe some pockets here and there that contain that. But aside from that, things kind of coming down here just a little bit as we get closer and closer to the 9 o'clock hour. And it looks like that line is getting a little messy as it enters Springfield. Not quite the nice, straight, even line that we saw there at one point. So maybe just becoming a little more scattered within there. You can still see some of those strong winds as they get ready to move on into parts of Springfield. But overall, a little calmer than what it looked at one point earlier. And we'll go ahead and look in Springfield itself there to Skycam as things pick up just a little bit. Notice some heavier rain starting to fall. Winds not quite picked up there just yet. Not a whole lot of lightning visible on the camera either. Jacob, you noticing something maybe just off to our north and west a little bit?
Yeah, I want to keep an eye northwest of Lincoln. Starting to see one of those little kinks kind of develop. That's going to be between Mason City and Delavon. And we'll be moving off to the north and east. You kind of watch how it's evolved over the last little bit here. That's that same spot we were kind of watching that Kevin was involved with earlier. And as it's lifting north, kind of get a little more of an S shape there. So that's a sign that there might be something that's going to be moving across 155 towards the Tremont area. Again, I don't think it's strong enough for a tornado warning at this point, but they do have that tornado possible tag on that severe thunderstorm warning still. And that's likely one of the spots that they're watching. The other thing is, and maybe you said this, I wasn't paying too much attention, no more severe thunderstorm warning for the southern half of Sangamon County. As we've expected, these storms moving in, kind of weakening. So it's raining. There's probably some wind, but nothing is impressive here. That spot that's to the north, up towards the Delavon area, really stands out to me. And that could be an issue for northwestern Logan County up to the Emden area. And then it'd be Tazewell County and eventually northwestern McLean County. And looking at the radar reflectivity, I'm actually pretty impressed with that. The last update that came in, you can kind of see that little hook kind of wrapping around there. So that may be something that gets tornado warned before long. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, that's not in our area. That may graze Logan County with a tornado warning. I don't think we would cut in for that. And I think there you go. There's a tornado warning for that storm we were just talking there. It's going to be for Tazewell County here. That's going to be for that storm that's to the south of the southwest of Delavon. And it's going to carry it north and west towards Tremont and Morton, Mackinac, towards the Deer Creek area. Goes until 9 p.m. Again, out of our area, but certainly something that we will keep an eye on. You just have to watch that line and see what happens. Of interest as well, it looks like radar may be populating some storms developing ahead of it as well, as you see there in McLean County. I don't see anything that's suspicious or fishy to me there, but I know the warm front's in the neighborhood, and so we'll keep an eye on that. It seems like that Delavan storm heading to the north and west is going to be an issue in Tazewell County. Do you want to drop further to the south also and watch the southern storms here? I tell you what, is it me, Seth, or does it seem like southern Illinois has just been walloped repeatedly this year?
Yeah.
They're about to get another bruising down. There are a line of tornado warnings there from southeast St. Louis all the way down towards the Waterloo area and off to the east there. They put that tornado warning pretty far out ahead of that initial line there into Washington and St. Clair and Randolph County, including Nashville. That goes to west of Mount Vernon. We just had some strong wind technically yesterday morning south of Effingham there and some of these areas in Marion County where these storms are heading. So keeping an eye on that. But new tornado warning now. Tazewell County is the closest thing we have. Doesn't include anyone in our area. But we'll see what these storms ahead of it as well. And Route 51 and Interstate 39 do. You can see maybe, is that another spot just south of it trying to pop up there more northeast of Mason City as well there, Seth?
Yeah, kind of just another little feature trying to emerge here just a little bit. And I might have to slow it down, just kind of look at the last few scans. But yeah, there's been, maybe if my radar wants to populate in here, kind of a little glitchy. But yeah, okay, now we go. Yeah, seems like in the last few scans, something has kind of popped up there. And we actually did just get a fresh new scan that maybe kind of removed that one a little bit. That Delavan one is still pretty evident, but maybe that one to the south of it, just not quite as good as what it was there on that previous scan. So watching just barely off to our north and west as these storms kind of just go right around us here. At least the worst of the storms kind of go right around us. And at the moment, we've only got very small portions of Menard and Sangamon County under a severe thunderstorm warning, and a good about western half of Logan County under a severe thunderstorm warning. But other than that, that's the only kind of warning box we have here in the area for the time being. So things very well behaved, kind of surprisingly well behaved at this point in the night. And wow, looks like they really, I don't know if this is what you were talking about just a moment ago, Jacob, but that tornado warning now is bordering Fayette County. So that has really pushed to the north and east just as of a few moments ago. So yeah, watching with interest to see if those storms kind of hold their form. That would eventually be a problem for parts of
the I-70 corridor.
Yeah, the I-70 corridor up and down Fayette County, maybe eventually into kind of the Effingham County area, but lots of distance for these storms to still travel. But obviously some pretty good evidence of rotation within some of those storms that will warrant another look at as we watch those get a little closer and closer to the area.
I mean, they just said warn the whole area because with these storms, that whole area there by O'Fallon, probably 10 miles wide, has shear and rotation in there. It's not a single spot that stands out. So they're just having to say, you know what, straight line winds and could be tornadoes. That's just large polygons covered entire counties.
Yep, kind of just kind of erring on the side of caution there, more or less than anything. Some of those storms you're able to kind of pinpoint where exactly that rotation is, but several spots to watch out for within that cluster of storms. One kind of programming note, too, as we approach the 9 o'clock hour, we are nearing our 9 o'clock newscast at some points, in which case we will not leave you here on the stream, but things may look a little different as we...
Well, I'll just take it into the other room.
Will you take it to the office?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jacob will have you covered either way there on the stream, but it might look like a slightly different formats as we kind of approach some of our late newscasts. But if you're just now jumping in right now, there's not a ton happening immediately in the area, but just on the edges of the area, talking both south and to the north, we have got some action in the form of tornado warnings here. And if you don't mind, Jacob, do you mind popping my picture back up there?
Oh, I apologize.
Yep. No worries at all. So
there.
That's kind of what we're looking at right now. Tornado warning just north of Logan County, tornado warning just south of Montgomery County, but not a whole lot of actual warning coverage here in the area. One thing I want to show, though, that storm has passed on into Springfield now. Let's bring up, I think I had the Bloomington camera up earlier looking at those little pop-up storms. Let's switch it back over to Springfield now, and you will see things have picked up. Not the most intense storm we've ever seen move through in the past, but definitely having the winds pick up there, some pretty heavy rain at times, not a whole lot of lightning again, as mentioned, but at least starting to see the leading edge of that line move on in. And the camera moving around quite a bit there as we start to catch that front line of storms. So that's the view in Springfield. Again, let us know where you're at, kind of what you are seeing right now. And if you've got anything to relay along, because there's a little bit of a lull in the activity here across the central portions of the area, but we are watching with pretty great interest, especially to our south, because that's where those storms kind of have the trajectory to eventually move into the area here at some point, particularly the I-70 region. So in a place like Vandalia, St. Elmo, kind of out in that direction, just got to keep an eye on these storms, see whether or not they hold their shape as they move farther to the north and east. Eventually, it might be a problem for you. Probably going to be a problem for you in some capacity, whether that's in the form of a tornado, a storm capable of a tornado, or just kind of standard severe weather in general. But right now, it's about the only thing to really keep too close of an eye on. We do have that one tornado warning just north and west of Logan County. We'll kind of even drop in on that one again as well with our velocity product.
And I will say this about that. I will say this about that. I know there's some people in the chats that are commenting, hey, I'm in Peoria. I'm up in Morton area. What's going on? Our sister station, WMBD up there, is covering this wall to wall on TV. We kind of just dabble with it because it's not really our area. What we like to talk about, we can do that on the digital side. But if some folks are looking for coverage as well, that's another place to head up there in the Peoria Metro.
Yep, absolutely. And there's some pretty good folks up there who will have you covered there with that severe coverage. So definitely tune in there if you can. You'll get kind of better analysis there, just because with that being outside of the area, don't want to spend too much time on it, but at least want to make people aware of what's happening that direction. Still got some rotation on that storm. Maybe not as good as it was at one point, but still certainly worthy of that warning as that pushes to the north and east. But again, things kind of just look like a little flat here with that main line moving through the area. We do have some gusty winds, but obviously with no warnings along this line of storms, we're not even talking about 60-mile-an-hour wind gust potential. And you can just even see this doesn't even really have the resemblance of a line anymore. Things have just kind of collapsed. We had that nice rigid kind of a leading edge there at one point. I'll even kind of reverse the radar back in time here a little bit. You can follow that clock right underneath the word Stormtracker there on the banner. Things were just a lot more organized earlier, that perfect linear shape, some strong winds along that. And it looks like we've just kind of lost some of that steam as we have marched on to the east. So not quite the same concern for the I-55 region as we had at one point earlier in the night. But still, it's going to be a little gusty. It's going to rain there, somewhat heavy at times. So we'll, of course, keep an eye out for that. But that's not something that we can't handle, as that isn't quite as bad as it looked at one point. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the Springfield camera again, because it is getting a little gusty there in town. As we can see the camera kind of struggling to look down there a little bit. Kind of the wind gets up underneath that camera. So let me see if I can kind of regain control of that, get a better look at the city there, because it doesn't help us too much if we're looking straight up at the sky. I have to fight the wind here a little bit. There we go. We've got the power to pull it back down better into view there. But you can see there's plenty of strong winds if it's starting to force that camera upwards a little bit. Nothing severe, but definitely starting to feel those storms roll on through as we've been awaiting them here for the last couple of hours. So I'd say the storms are now kind of officially entering into that I-55 region. Not a whole lot of concern east of that point, at least for the central part of the area. We're just kind of watching those storms off to the south are kind of the thing to pay the most attention to. We're even going to hop in velocity and kind of look at those to see how they've progressed over time. Like we noted earlier, there's plenty of indications that there's action going on inside there, even if you can't kind of pinpoint any one exact spot. Maybe some little clusters look a little more tightly organized than others, but just kind of a little noisy within those storms, but still enough to warrant some tornado warnings for the potential for some tornadoes. Of course, when those type of warnings are issued, they are for storms capable of producing a tornado. We don't necessarily have one on the ground whenever those are issued. If we do, that box will appear pink there. So still just seeing the potential for those to turn tornadic at some point in time, but that is not the case right now. Again, if you are just kind of picking up here with us, it is a little past 8:45. Here's a look at the radar picture across central Illinois, where things have kind of held in check for the most part up to this point in the night. And we expect things to maybe kind of stay this way with this main part of the line, at least kind of that portion up and down I-55 in our immediate area. But you don't have to go too far outside of the area to see some more action. Northwest part of the state, we've got warnings all the way from the Quad Cities down into the Peoria region And that's a tornado warning just to the south and east of the Peoria area, as that one continues to race on to the north and east. You can see things maybe not quite as compact as what they were still, and kind of seeing those contrasting winds that would suggest maybe that rotation potential at some point, but not the tight couplet we had there at one point in time. But again, that is off to our north and west anyway, so not too much concern there. And I'm going to look here real quick. I don't know if there's been any kind of storm reports within the area, and it looks like we've still kind of missed out on some of those up to this point. Some of that stuff down closer to the I-70 region was from, was it just one night ago? No, not last night, but 2 nights ago. Yeah. Saturday morning. Yep.
Early.
So yeah, there's kind of been relatively safe here in Central Illinois over the last couple of days here, even as this main line starts to move on in. And just pop up lightning there again real quick. There's just not a whole lot of evidence that it's about to storm in your area. You just can't see a whole lot of that lightning. That stuff that kind of popped out in front of the main line in McLean County, you might be getting a little bit of a light show there actually in the Bloomington Normal area. Let's go ahead and I'll pop up one of their cameras in the background too, see if we can get kind of get a light show out that way, even though that is also sub-severe. At least it's more of a light show than we've seen so far for us here. So I've got Uptown Normal punched in here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. I think I have it anyway. Let me look at, there we go. So maybe we'll see a little bit of lightning there pop up on the camera momentarily, but things kind of still continuing to behave a little bit as we approach the 9 o'clock hour. Again, as we get to 9 o'clock, we'll have to kind of change things up just a little bit. So with the 9 o'clock newscast on X49, you can catch me there live on the air. I'll continue to provide some updates on the severe weather that we're seeing, but for the most part, going to carry out the news portion of that show just because there's not a whole lot of active warnings here in the area. But Jacob will still have you covered. He will kind of move things around a little bit and get himself set up there for when that decides, or for when that time starts to get a little closer.
Yeah, and I think just a little planning. What I'll do is here in a few minutes, I'll just kind of take over so you can get set for your show and whatnot. And we'll sit here, and I know that 9 o'clock, that first 10 minutes typically is pretty quick with, you've got your probably head at the top of the show, I'm assuming, and then you've got your main forecast coming up pretty early in there. So we'll stick around for a good chunk of that, but just got to talk about things here overall. So that's kind of what we'll deal with here. Again, I think the general thought is these storms do weaken the further east they get. We already are seeing in a good section of that them getting weaker, but you can see there down southwest of Effingham, that red box that comes out, and that's probably the most interesting area of that there. So we'll keep a close eye on how things pan out. While Seth's now starting to transition to getting ready for the 9 o'clock hour, if we can, Seth, I'm going to toss to Kevin real quick, and then we'll talk to him, and then I'll be back with more on that. So we'll show and see if Kevin is working or not. He's kind of repositioning. Kevin, if you can hear us, tell us where you are and what you're seeing. And right on cue, we've lost Kevin, so he's stalled. He's
Right as we give up, he tries to come back.
He comes back. Maybe we'll come back to him in a second here and see what he's doing. I think he's not sure where he's at. I mean, he's cutting in and out pretty good there, but he got off there, I think, east of Springfield. I don't know if he's heading south towards Taylorville or what. And I know sometimes you get that there in eastern Sangamon County. If he's heading southeast, he's getting kind of into the river valley there, and sometimes can lose. Like, we've lost him completely. So never mind, Kevin. We will talk to you at some point later. What we'll do here real quick is pop up the I'll bring in real quick my computer. Just check out that storm up there in Tazewell County. Not an obvious area of rotation. That shear line has come kind of straight there. We're looking for some kinks and some greens and reds to match. One thing we are dealing with is that we are more parallel to the radar beam with this storm, and so we're kind of switching how it looks here. You can see earlier those greens showed up a lot earlier, and now those reds will pop up. You can see there's a little bit here right over the Tremont area, a little spot to me, something to, that's a really terrible drawing there. Let me try that again. Right in here would be where that circulation that is showing up. And as I flip over to the radar, you kind of keep your eye on that same spot. Again, it kind of sticks out ahead of the storm. When you see the shear areas kind of end up in the head ahead of the part of the storm. That's where you have to watch for that tornado potential. That's why that tornado warning is in effect for Tazewell County here. And that goes for another 9 minutes. We'll see if they extend it. That's going to carry through Tremont. I think it stays east of Let me rephrase that. I think it stays west of Mackinac, heads more between Deer Creek and Morton on its path. Maybe the south and east side of Morton would be better in line for that. But at this point, Morton and Deer Creek probably need a shelter. Mackinac still sheltered. Tremont, time is up. Delavon, you're all clear. Hopedale, you're all clear from this warning as it moves into the eastern and northeastern parts of Tazewell County, crossing 155, very near Tremont, where that circulation would be. So that's the case. We have really lost Kevin. I mean, he didn't pop back up in a hot minute there. So we'll see if he ends up coming back at some point. Further to the north and west in northwest Illinois, up on I-70, there is, I'm going to turn my ears off for south as well. There's a tornado warning there in southwest of the Quad Cities. That's going to be between Cambridge and the 80-280 split there towards the Orion area. That's out of our area, but of note. And then we really are just interested in the southern part here to see what happens. It may be trying to break apart from what I can tell slowly here, but there's still enough shear where they've got that tornado warning button up to the Montgomery and Fayette County line there southwest of Vandalia. So you're kind of looking here. It doesn't look as organized to me compared to earlier. You can really see those colors stand out. But that surging wind is in place here, and that's sometimes where you can still get that rotation. So that's going to be between Highland and Carlisle. Big, broad swath of that. Not looking as impressive. Further to the south, in that tornado warning in the Clinton and Washington County also needs to be watched. Eventually, that might be a Marion, Fayette County problem. We'll see if that's extended. I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet, I almost think it may not be extended based on what I'm seeing here. Is those storms also trying to fall apart? One of the reasons for that is that the best instability with these storms, and I'll just kind of bring up the future track instability to kind of show you, maybe get a starting vantage point. You know, instability here, there's not a lot of it. You know, if we went back a little bit, let me bring another one up here, see if this works a little bit better. You know, populate that. I do hear Kevin maybe cut back in now, so we'll see if we get that. You know, there's not a lot of instability in place here over central Illinois where these storms are. You can see those storms are falling apart, so they're kind of running on momentum at this point to see how that momentum continues to be the case. And so you got to have some instability, and you can see where there's no instability. These storms between Lincoln and St. Louis, I mean, they have just fallen apart. We go back even an hour, and I'll just pull that back. How much different things looked an hour ago. We had that sharp red line of windy storms to now in our area, just an area of rain. That storms out by St. Louis, I don't want to discount them, but they're outrunning the best instability. So we'll see how much farther to the east that they make. At this point, we'll keep monitoring, but I think we're on the downward trend with these things, which is kind of what we expected. The highest threat west of I-55, that threat waned as we went off to the east. And so, you know, we were also talking about the threat graphic, and I'll bring up that real fast.
I come in here and say something later.
Here's that severe threat
forecast from that pod.
So that was what we posted earlier today. You know, you can see that severe threat was higher west of Springfield, and it really drops off between Springfield and Champaign there.
Next story.
Probably by 11 to 12, that line will be moving between Decatur and Champaign. It may be a little earlier than that, but it's chugging along. So 10, 11 o'clock, we might start talking about Effingham area if it can hold together, but that severe threat is a lot lower. All right, we do have Kevin now. I hear him clear for a little bit. So, Kevin, I've got your shot up. You want to talk to us a little bit? Maybe give me 90 seconds if you can while I fix some things. Tell us where you are and what you're seeing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've just been in rain this whole time. I was trying to navigate a way to get south, but there's no great easy way to kind of get south and east from my location. So I'm actually driving through Christian County here. I'm heading towards Taylorville, and we're just going to see if those southern cells did anything or increased a little bit more. I was at least going to try to position myself back in play for that. But as you've been kind of talking about there, maybe some weakening from what it was earlier. But I guess I'm going to continue. I'm already down. I'm already down here, and as you know, if you drive through Christian County, not a whole lot of normal like north, south, east, west. A lot of kind of southeast, northwest, northeast kind of roads. So I'm just kind of cutting through here and reevaluate. I've not been too impressed with anything. Just been in a shield of rain, heavy rain. I'll say this: be careful in some areas where you've had a lot of rain, because some ponding of water on roadways and whatnot. I've been the only thing that I mentioned, but I'll say this: probably just watch those storms coming in from the south and see if I need to make a play a little bit more closer to I-70 or not. But we'll continue to keep you up to date here. I know you guys are going to start the 9 o'clock newscast, but boy, we've kind of split the difference with severe storms and tornado warnings to our north and to our south, and we're kind of right in the middle right now, just basically a lot of heavy rain. So I'll update you if I get ahead of anything. In the meantime, we'll send it back to you there in the studio.
All right, Kevin, we're a few minutes from the newscast. I don't know if you're going to talk during the newscast. Seth, have you organized if Kevin's going to be in at all?
He certainly can. I'll probably have him in the...
Okay, Kevin says doesn't need him.
Don't do it.
So
Okay.
we might bring your shot up, Kevin, but you and I might talk a little bit. We'll see, because we're going to keep the digital stream going. I will say this, Kevin. If you get to the point here where you get to Taylorville and nothing's happening, you can always stop by Bill's Toasty, 24 hours a day. They got burgers there that are real good. You won't be disappointed. So that's my tip of the day with that. With that, Kevin, I'm going to let you go, and we'll check back on, and I'm going to take things up to our digital room and kind of monitor things, and then we'll be getting the newscast. We are about 100 seconds away from that, so we'll have Seth talk, and I'll bring him in on TV, and we'll set that up here. So, Seth, you are off of my stuff, and we'll watch the beginning of the newscast before we then cut to some more coverage here in a bit as we continue to watch Kevin. And that will take a minute of me setting stuff up here. So I'll put 6, the production switcher, and have that ready to roll. And we'll be able to see things carry on through. Did get a new severe thunderstorm warning while we're at it real fast here. McLean County, including the city of Bloomington Normal. That's going to be for those storms that are off to the west, something that we will keep an eye on and continue to monitor for a little bit here. So that's going to carry us to the northeast. That storm does strike me as a little more impressive as well in the Mackinac area. There's that little spot between Tremont and Deer Creek moving off. Again, I think that cuts just east of Morton, more towards the Deer Creek area. If there's an extension to that warning, it is going to carry up more into the Eureka and into the Washington, east of Washington, I think. But it'll be more into Woodford County, what I meant to say there, if that continues in that direction. I don't think it's a McLean County issue at this point. And nothing else sticks out to me further down the line until we get down here towards the areas east of St. Louis. With that, I'm going to briefly pause my commentary on this. Our newscast is about 20 seconds away, so we're going to cut over to our newscast and allow you to listen into the beginning with Amanda Brennan and Seth as well, and we'll listen to that first chunk of news. I know there's some big news updates around here, and then as well, we will let Seth do his forecast, and then we'll continue our digital coverage here momentarily. With that, WCIX News at 9 starts right now.
This is your WCIA3 forecast first, sponsored by Route 66 Solar.
Well, storms have now entered into the area, but things may be overall pretty weak here right now in central Illinois. We look at the Springfield camera. Yeah, you can see some raindrops, maybe just a little bit of movement there on the camera. But so far, things kind of behaving themselves, at least up until this point in time. Here's a look at your radar picture here across the region. We've only really got one warning in the area, and it's a pretty new one, too. This is for parts of McLean County. That does include the Bloomington Normal area. We got just a little bits of kind of those pop-up storms that have emerged here from ahead of the line. And this storm does have a tornado possible tag on it, so that will be worth watching here as we move ahead in time. Just kind of pop-up velocity. You can kind of see a few signatures there. That might suggest we could have some rotation there at some point in time. Here's your latest tornado watch. All areas highlighted there in the yellow. This is in effect until 11 p.m. Already seen that trim here just a little bit. We will continue to cover these storms and kind of provide the latest on what's supposed to happen here through the rest of the night coming up as WCIA News at 9 o'clock starts right now.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA3 News at 9 on X49.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Brennan. Roads just recently reopened after more than a day of being closed following a deadly plane crash between Coles and Cumberland counties. Federal officials have been on scene today investigating what could have happened yesterday. Multiple agencies have confirmed 4 people were on board the single-engine plane when it crashed about 10 miles south of Mattoon around 10 in the morning. State police say all of the passengers were from Menominee, Wisconsin. That's just about an hour east of Minneapolis. The Coles County coroner has identified the victims as 46-year-old Ross Nelson, 45-year-old Ramey Rundle, 36-year-old Courtney Morrow, and 48-year-old Michael Morrow. The online tracker system called FlightAware shows the plane taking off from Kentucky earlier in the day before crashing in central Illinois about an hour later. That's when first responders arrived to the scene and when witnesses saw smoke. Officials say initial investigation shows the plane flew into power lines before hitting the ground. As we learn more, we'll keep you posted on air and online at WCIA.com. Now to our next top story this evening. Our weather team is tracking severe storms moving across central Illinois. Some western counties under a tornado watch already. So with that, let's bring in meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff. So Seth, how are things looking now?
Well, it's funny you ask right when you did, Amanda, because at the top of the show, our tornado watch looked different than it does right now. We've actually added 3 counties to that watch within the last several seconds. Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties now included in that tornado watch until 11 p.m. Talked about at the top of the show some of those little pop-up storms in the McLean County area. Have to think that's exactly what's kind of allowing this tornado watch to continue off to the east. We do actually have a tornado-warned storm just off to the north and west of the area. So it'll be this particular portion of the kind of overall line of storms to watch as we move ahead in time. Again, some interesting features in there with the winds, so we'll have to kind of monitor the northern part of the area with some of those storms, but also to be mentioned as well. Let's look down to our south where things have been a little more tornadic in nature as well. We still have a pair of tornado warnings down that direction, just along I-70 southwest of Fayette County. The rotation on some of those has lost its luster just a little bit within the last several scans, but that'll be something we need to continue to watch out for through the rest of the nights. SPC's latest outlook does have a 4 out of 10 tornado risk for those places highlighted in yellow. We'll continue to watch that severe threat as we get deeper into the evening. Storms should be weakening like they kind of have already up to this point in time, but we'll still need to track things here over the next couple of hours. Amanda, back over to you.
Seth, thank you. Turning now to other headlines. 3 people are dead after an SUV left the road, hit a tree, and burst into flames early this morning. This happened near East Wayne and Cobb Boulevards in Kankakee just after 1 a.m. Officials say they tried pulling the passengers out of the car but couldn't overcome how strong the fire had gotten. All 3 people were in their 40s and from Kankakee. Officials are continuing to investigate the accident. And now to Macon County, where police are investigating after 1 person was shot near Milliken's campus this morning. Students got a message around 11:45 alerting them to an investigation and asking them to avoid the area near the University Corner Store that's near West Main Street and Oakland Avenue in Decatur. Officers say 1 man was hurt and taken to the hospital. No arrests have been made at this time. If you know anything, contact the police department. And also in Decatur, 1 person lucky to be alive after a fire thanks to the quick response from emergency crews. They found a paralyzed individual partially inside the home right when they arrived. Now this happened near East Decatur and South Stone Streets last night around 7:20. While some first responders were treating the victim and taking them to the hospital, others started putting out the kitchen fire before it spread any further. They confirmed everyone was evacuated and then continued investigating the cause. The Red Cross is now helping the 2 people who are displaced. Life for a 7th grader in Champaign County hasn't been the same ever since hearing life-changing news over his spring break. What started as a minor ache has turned into something he never imagined. WCI3's Gabriela Mirando talked with the family today and explains the diagnosis.
The Robbins household's usual discussions of Fortnite and Battlefield have been overshadowed by something else.
It's been rough.
A little over a month ago, 13-year-old Devin Robbins told his dad his knee hurt.
I initially was like, hey, you slept on it wrong. Maybe you twisted it going up the stairs at school or something like that.
An X-ray, MRI, and biopsy showed he had a type of bone cancer called osteosarcoma.
I mostly put it out of my mind. Try not to think about it. Because I'm most likely gonna beat it.
He got the news over spring break. Ever since then, his life has been turned upside down. Classes have been replaced by chemo. 29 weeks of it.
We normally don't have any medical issues in the family, so this coming out of left field was pretty shocking.
Come back.
In the midst of physical pain and exhaustion, Devin says the support of family and friends is keeping him going. His positivity is also helping the rest of his family as they navigate this new chapter.
He's definitely taking it well for his age and stuff.
Devin says, all things considered, he's feeling pretty good. He says overall pain has gone down ever since his first round of chemo and is hopeful that continues.
He just got home from his second round of chemo and has 27 more weeks to go. Well, it's been 26 years since the shooting at Columbine High School that changed our country forever. How current students remembered the 13 victims. Plus, teenagers right here in Champaign gave back this weekend as well. Why they honored a former student who was also involved in a school shooting several years ago. That and more ahead. But first, turning to this weather, I mean, these watches are being put out there every couple of seconds.
Every time you and I do a new turn of talking to each other, the watches change. Literally within the last couple of minutes. This is a good one, though. We have actually eliminated a couple of counties from the watch. Menard and Sangamon County no longer included in it, but we did add 3 more counties up there to the north as well. The night not over with just yet. Still tracking those storms as they move east. Expecting some weakening to take place, but there's still some complications here. We'll let you know about that more coming up after this.
All right, Tim, for those folks that are on now, again, we're in the middle of our newscast now, so during commercial breaks, I'm just going to cut in and keep watching things here for a few bits. We'll catch Seth's forecast momentarily, and then our digital coverage will resume here as we continue. Still watching this tornadic storm here coming into Woodford County. It has crossed I-74 between Morton and Goodfield. Radar indicated at this point it's going to be near Deer Creek, just west of Goodfield. For reference, Busy Corner, if you ever heard of that restaurant, that's in Goodfield there. Just west of there and north of there is where that tornado is heading. And we look for those little areas of rotation. It was more obvious here earlier, about 5-10 minutes ago. As we've moved that circulation up, then the radar not picking up as well of any sort of circulation from that. But farther to the northwest of us, there's been a number of confirmed tornadoes, actually. One in the Geneseo area, another one to the west of there as well. So that's what we've been dealing with for a little bit. So it's kind of what we're continuing to monitor here. Again, our area, the only warning we have is a severe thunderstorm warning for McLean County. But as you heard Seth talk about, that tornado watch was extended into Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois County, and as well as to Kankakee County and points to the north and west. I don't think it's going to be an I-57 Champaign problem south, and I think it was a little aggressive to include Ford and Iroquois County, but it's there. We'll keep an eye on things as that line segment moves to the north and east. And Seth's graphic showed Menard and Sangamon County. Mine is not updated yet, but that'll be a change that you'll see here momentarily before long as this line of storms continues to work its way off to the north and east. Whenever you're going.
About 15 seconds.
15 seconds out. All right. So with that being said, we're going to set it back over to our newscast here, and this continues. Seth is going to take it away with the forecast, and then once that hits that next commercial break, we will continue our digital coverage to 9:30 before we'll hear from Seth again. With that, are you here at the pod?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. With that, Seth, take it away.
Now, Central Illinois' most accurate forecast with meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff.
All right, so we are continuing to monitor our storms as they start to progress east of I-55 right now, and even got a new tornado watch, including some counties up there to our northern part of the viewing area. That does include parts of McLean County. As we look on, you can see Bloomington. Not a whole lot happening there right now. We talked a lot about this on our stream, though. There's not a whole lot of lightning within these storms, and to be honest, at the moment, there's not a whole lot of severe activity immediately in the area, but there's still several features to keep an eye out for as we move ahead in time. Severe thunderstorm warning for the western half of McLean County. This one has a tornado possible tag on it. We'll even let this radar kind of play out here in motion so you can kind of see the northeast trajectory here with some of these storms. But again, tornado watch has been expanded now to include our counties up there to the north and east. That includes Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. So just kind of watching how the northern part of these storms progress here with time, even tossing on our velocity picture here. You can see definitely some strong winds within there as well. Not quite seeing some tight rotations there that we saw at one point, although we do have one tornado warning just northwest of the area right now. And speaking of just outside the area, let's look at another part of the area just off to our south, where we still maintain a couple of tornado warnings just outside, kind of south of I-70. Again, rotation not quite as defined within those storms as it was at one point in the night. We'll have to monitor these as we go ahead in time, as those are kind of tracking just along the I-70 corridor. So may see some of those severe storms enter parts of Fayette and Effingham counties here before too long. Let's get a check at that tornado watch, which surprisingly has not changed since the last time we talked about it. And you can see they're trimming some of those counties out there across the west as that line moves on through. So Cass, Morgan, Menard, and Sangamon out of the tornado watch. Everywhere else, your watch continues till 11 p.m., except Livingston, Ford, Iroquois counties. They had to kind of issue a separate tornado watch due to it being a different office. That's technically until 4 a.m. I don't predict things are going to maybe carry over that deep into the night, but that'll be something that we will watch here and see how those storms progress. Latest from the SPC has kind of moved our tornado risk a little bit as that line has moved ahead, but you can notice things get a little weaker as we move on off to the east. Let's get the latest here from our future track model as well, which shows those storms kind of breaking up like they have here already as they continue to march east. Maybe we get a little bit of resurgence there from those southern storms, but we tend to think that the threat is going to lower here as we continue to march off that direction. And a lot of our forecast still holds here with those strongest winds kind of starting to lower that number as we cross the I-57 region. We tend to think that things will not be quite as intense as we start to move on off to the east. And here's the kind of latest on the arrival of storms. We've already kind of gotten halfway through. This graphic may not be until about 10 p.m. for some of you east of I-57 whenever you actually start to confront some of those storms, which we will kind of watch and see how things play out here through the nights. Good thing is once we get through tonight, once that severe threat is over with, we've kind of got ourselves a pretty nice start to the week ahead. Just look at some of these high temperatures as we move on into the next several days. We've got 70s and 80s back on the board as we head on into the beginning of the new week here. So looking forward to some nice warm temperatures. Let's get you a good look here at your 7-day forecast just to see what's ahead. Again, mainly watching through the night tonight, kind of keeping an eye on our severe threat. So maybe even as deep into the night as midnight there. But after that, 70s and 80s with some sunshine. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that after a little bit of a messy holiday weekend.
Yeah, looking forward to next weekend.
Right.
Seth, thank you. We have a look at your national news next.
All right, thanks there, Seth. Just kind of bring it back with the newscast here, and that's going to wrap up what we do with that. So we got our fix of Seth and Amanda, and it will be myself, Jacob Dickey here, going to continue with things, and then we'll kind of check in on Kevin real fast since we're in the commercial. I'm not going to talk to him, but you can see he's working his way on through. Let's see if we can figure out where he is. Is he to Taylorville? I'm trying to see. He's kind of down here. I'll take a gander and a guess as he comes on through. He might be to Taylorville by now. No, it's not Taylorville.
No, that's all right. Either way.
Just a little easier to control. We'll keep an eye and see where he's at as he continues to work his way south at east. I'm having a little trouble seeing on the screen. And I cannot hear him either, but that's okay. And that's because I'm not listening to Kevin if you are. So we'll keep an eye on Kevin's shot. He's working his way southeast towards Taylorville. It's hard for me to tell. Is he coming in to... If I can spot him on the map real quick here. Somebody in the stream might be able to identify him as well based on that shot. He's pulled into cases. That's a good sign. He'll be getting some gas, and we'll check back with him later. All right, so I'm going to continue this coverage here, and Seth will leave you be for the newscast. Kevin's getting gas. That's what he's doing. So, as we sit here, we're watching those storms. Keeping an eye down south. The National Weather Service has indicated they do not plan to extend those tornado warnings down towards southwest of our area. Instead, they have opted for a severe thunderstorm warning. Now, they did put a tornado possible tag on it. That tornado possible tag is just a indication that we could see something, but more looking towards that wind threat. And so that's something that we'll keep an eye on here for a little bit while longer. So I don't expect this to be an issue for Fayette County or even into Effingham County for a tornado threat. We'll watch in the middle here. This big gap of just rain shower activity continues. And then as we carry further to the north, then just checking a few little pieces of info here. Carrying further to the north, the severe thunderstorm warning from McLean County has been allowed to drop. Still have this tornado warning for Woodford County here. That has already passed through the Eureka area. Now it's on towards Roanoke and eventually going to catch up to potentially northwestern Livingston County. I don't know if it'll make it that far. In fact, they just dropped that tornado warning there for Woodford County. So we have no active warnings on the board here in the area. And so what that may mean is here in the next few minutes, we'll kind of keep an eye on the southern things. Those next few minutes, we might be able to just end our digital coverage for the night, but we still can kind of look around and keep an eye on things. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a view from north to south across the state and talk about things. There was an earlier confirmed tornado just to the east of the Quad Cities with these storms, a number of tornado warnings lined up there. That's going to be from Bureau County off towards Geneseo, points to the north there, including Henry, Whiteside, Rock Island counties. It's going to be between I-80 and I-88 west of LaSalle County. It's kind of where these storms are. And I'll show you something that stuck out earlier, especially as we were looking to the west of Geneseo, is we actually saw in our debris tracker. It's been the first one I've seen in the state all day. You can see that little spot that pops up here just west of Geneseo. That actually is tornadic debris right there. So that did cross I-80 between Edford to the west of Geneseo there, and then crossed US 6. And as it did so, then it actually lifted a little bit northwest towards the Hannah area before I think then it got shoved to the north-northeast towards the town of Shady Beach, Phoenix. These are some probably more townships than they are, but there's an earlier tornado confirmed there, and some other tornadoes have been confirmed as well. But that's the one thing that stuck out to me with that. I tend to think myself that our severe threat really is from this point on waning pretty quickly across our viewing area. We're still going to keep an eye on these storms in McLean County and Livingston County as they move off to the north and east along I-55. But I don't think that tornado watch really was all that necessary for Livingston, Fort, and Iroquois County. It's in place. That's fine. Abundance of caution is okay. But with the way the instability is, there's just not much instability in place here. If these storms were 3-4 hours earlier, I think we'd be dealing with a different story. But instead, because the sun has gone down, we're losing that instability for the day. They're not as much of a problem. And then we're down to just one severe thunderstorm warning then just south of our area that includes Marion County. I know we got a lot of folks in Marion County that watch. We had Kinmundy get hit real hard with some storms Friday night, early Saturday morning, and that continued off into Clay County, Flora, up towards Louisville, Ingraham, and into the Newton area. That storm, the strongest one, but it's probably on the downward swing. We drop further to the south then, tornado warning now. This is going to be in the Perryville, Missouri area, and in its course, going to head to the north and east, more east-northeast. That'll be heading towards the Carbondale area, potentially. There's more instability to work with down there, so these storms might survive a little longer. And then Cape G, you can see this storm here to the southwest of there. We're moving into southern Illinois as well. And further down that line, then as I pull up the regional radar, still clusters of storms continue with some severe thunderstorm warnings in Arkansas. But the only active tornado warnings on either side of our viewing area, northwest Illinois to the east of the Quad Cities, and then down in southern Illinois. If that continues, again, that'll make it towards the Carbondale area. Let's check real quick here. And I know there was at one point a flood watch that was in place. Even the way things are looking now, you can see Macoupin, Montgomery, and Fayette counties under that flood watch. That's not going to be an issue for much longer. And these storms are continuing to push on through. And let's see if I can get some storm total rain amounts out here. Just kind of see how things are with that. We were kind of thinking we get 1 to 3 inches of rain out of this system. And some areas down south of Effingham just last night had 1 to 2 and whatnot. It'll take a minute sometimes for the data to populate on there, but that's something that we'll keep an eye on and just kind of keep checking on in here and whatnot. So that's the scoop with that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and go 10 more minutes on our digital stream, and then we'll bring Seth back in and we'll bring Kevin back in for kind of a final close. There we go. That data finally coming on in. Typically, when you see those yellows and oranges, we're now in the 1 to 2 inch range here And so I'll click on one of those spots and you kind of get an idea. There's a couple spots that are estimated in the last couple of days in the 3-inch range. So you see that yellow typically falls in the 1 to 2. And we've had that first batch went down south of I-70, and it does seem like this system has maybe brought us a little less rain than expected, but also that warm front lifting north helped to spread it out a little bit more. If we were to combine the areas that have seen that rain, we would certainly be maybe in some more trouble. It's been a really significant flooding event for southwest Missouri down through Oklahoma. And I know there's been fatalities from the flash flooding, both in the Oklahoma City area and in the Tulsa area. So really lucky that we are not dealing with something like that, but there certainly has been some of that rain that is out there. Let's go back and just kind of take a look at the area here. At this point, I think we're really looking good for the WCIA area. And I'm just going to check real quick while we leave that shot up. I can pull up some other information and keep an eye on things. So 9/21, just going to put an update on my Facebook page real quick here. So we're just looking at some general rain and thunder. And we'll get that on there. And then I'm going to check as well. Facebook comments. We got a lot of folks watching too. I always tell you what, one of my favorite things about being on these digital streams is seeing people where they are from. And so that's something that we can always just kind of peek in and check on, see if there's any chat. Can you post the chat on that?
I found out too. I think the watch till 4 a.m. may have been an accident.
I think it's supposed to be till 1 a.m.
SBC was supposed to be 1. So
yeah, but
cool.
Just because the Storm Prediction Center says, hey, the watch goes until this point, doesn't mean the local National Weather Services can't cancel it earlier than that. So I figured I'd just pop on in. Here's the plan. We are going to wrap up. I'll wait till 9:30. We'll bring Kevin on and just see what he's doing. He's still at Casey's. And then maybe we'll talk to him. We'll give you some last thoughts, and I think we'll wrap this coverage up because I personally don't think there's going to be anything that comes from it at this point. I think we're done.
We talked about it hitting a wall and weakening. Didn't expect this. It just kind of fizzled out.
Be some nice rain, perhaps. But, there's no instability to work with here. So that's the case. 2-3 hours earlier, been a different story, I think. So that's the case. We still got Amanda. She's got to do another 7 minutes of news, and then we'll.
Are you still on stream?
We're still on our stream, yeah.
Oh, hi everyone.
I can't hear you, but Amanda's in there. She said hi to everyone in the stream if you care. Anyways, I like seeing where people are checking in from. So Effingham, Spring Valley, Charleston, Beemint, Herrick. I love that. Keep them coming, and we'll check some here at the end of our digital fun. Is that the way to say it, Seth? Some digital extravaganza with storm coverage here. At this point, we're just we're stretching for time, filling for time, I think is what we call this in the biz. So let me get this update out real quick here. So we got that. And 9:25 on the dot now with our stream as we watch things here. You can always chime in too. Sometimes we do notice that these digital streams can have a little delay on them. So if that's the case as well, hey, 9:25, check your clock when you hear that, see what time it is. It can sometimes be 30 seconds to a minute delay. We've kind of been exploring that, and that's something to think about when you got severe weather coverage. It's the case. Take a look there in Northwest Illinois. Just like to check those other tornado warnings out again in our WCIA 3 area. I think it's going to be hard to get any more warnings here at this point. I really think it's going to be a struggle with that. Tasha said she heard Amanda. That's good. It is Easter, so that is something. But that's those storms that are in Northwest Illinois. and still tornado warning. There may be an hour left with those storms before something happens. Let me flip over to max 1 here. I'm going to put that back on and move things around and finagle with it. That's kind of like what we're dealing with here. Down the line, Southern Illinois, those tornado warnings in the St. Louis area, all gone. We're just left with severe thunderstorm warnings. Now, they do have a tornado possible tag on it. That's for the storms that are coming in between Mount Vernon and Salem here. 1 lightning bolt showing up. That's it. I mean, these storms do not have much instability at all. And as I look at the velocity product here, I kind of get an idea. The only reason that tornado possible tag is in place, there might be 2. 1, because the radar beam at this location is actually pretty high up. And so we're in this no man's zone where it's hard to see. And 2, the orientation of the actual shear zone in there is that way. And let me remove the arrow on it. Take the arrowhead off. That's the orientation of the arrow where our wind shear is showing up. The storm itself, though, is oriented more vertical north-south. And so just because we've got that here, you're going to keep that tag on there, but there's probably not going to be much more chance for wind on this storm either as it moves on through. Maybe you can kind of see it a little bit better there south of Centralia. Again, some of those greens and reds, but we're looking high in the storm. We don't get a great view. Sometimes these radar beams, when they're 8,000 feet up, can look above what actually is happening. And that may be the case as we have to work between radars there to see what's going on. So perhaps there's some weak rotation up in the mid-levels aloft. Typically, if you're having rotation closer to the ground, you're going to have stronger rotation in the mid-levels. That's probably a sign more of just some wind potential there. I think that tornadoes are really winding down. Far southern Illinois, I do not think that's the case, though. There's more instability in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is more unstable as this storm moves on in them. It's probably 30 to 45 minutes from the Carbondale area here. It's crossing the Mississippi River now, Grand Tower, Sand Ridge area there, west of Carbondale. With time, then that may move towards the Carbondale area. So we'll keep an eye on that from afar. But then there's some of those other storms down the way that are severe thunderstorm warnings. So playing tappy toes here. Seth is about to wrap up his last bit, and then we'll just do a final goodbye from him. Do a final goodbye as well. That tornado watch does continue for most of us until 11 p.m. Livingston, Fort Iroquois County. Technically, it says 4 a.m. I do not think it lasts until 4 a.m. I think it'll be surprising to see it get to midnight the way things look here at this point. And they did extend that just to kind of cover things if those storms were to overperform, but they have not. They've been about as forecasted. And so, when they first were talking about that, there was 4 or 5 tornado warnings lined up between Quad Cities and Lincoln. Now there's none. I guess there's technically 2, but they're up in the Quad Cities. And that's been the case of where that's issued. So that is kind of what has been going on. I think they might be done. I can't tell. I'm going to walk in and check real quick here. Not done yet, but we'll send it to Seth real quick for a brief minute to have some thoughts.
Here's a quick final check of your forecast. Watching that tornado watch through the night. So those storms do appear overall to be weakening quite a bit here. Over your 7-day forecast, things look pretty good as we'll see 70s and 80s to start the week.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
All right, so there's a little chance for Seth to give the forecast there. And with that, then the 9 o'clock newscast is over. So it is just you and I at this point running the digital table. I think the interesting thing, what's the numbers on our stream? We've got still 1,600 folks, which is pretty impressive. It's fun to see. Folks just like to check in and chime in and things of that. And then we also do have Kevin still out there. He's driving around somewhere. Who knows what he's doing these days? There's his shot. I don't even know if Kevin can hear us or not. Can you hear us, Kevin, at all?
Very faintly can hear him, yeah.
Say again?
Kevin, we can hear you, but it sounds like you're a little...
Yeah, maybe his mic slipped down his jacket or something.
Yeah, it sounds like your mic's just a little...
I got your mic on
away
now, but He's fixing something. I think he's dropped some pizza on the microphone, maybe from Casey's.
Probably it. Yeah.
That might have been what he did. Sounds like he's adjusting things, and wow.
There we
Believe
go.
it or
There
not,
you
I was unable to get pizza. I did make a little bit of a stop with the old trusty Casey's, the fine folks at the Casey's there. Unfortunately, my choice of pizza was unavailable, so I had to go with the next best thing, which would be the chicken tenders that were sitting there staring me in the face. So
they actually had chicken tenders late at night, Kevin. Is that what you're saying? I think that's a rarity. I've not seen that.
No, very rare. I think they might have been at the end of their enjoy. But I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure the box said, "Please enjoy by 9:29 p.m." Take a look at your watches there, folks. I'm doing my best here to enjoy them by 9:29. But yeah, my choice of sausage pizza was not there. There were 2 pepperoni slices. I opted for the chicken tenders. I was actually in the full town of Stonington. And that's the Casey's I stopped at. I was initially trying to cut down there. I was going to see if I would catch that stuff down south, but it proves troublesome to dive south and east through Christian County when you're wanting to get somewhere in a quicker manner. It's kind of tough to do so. So started going southeast, and then I said nope, and now I'm going back northeast, and I've made my way into I guess I'm in Blue Mountain now.
You in Blue Mountain? You're not quite to Booty
back,
yet, though.
Towards Decatur. Yeah. No, not quite. But we'll be approaching there. Like I've been in rain for 2.5 hours straight. So, but that's kind of the right now, and we're just kind of rolling through, and yeah, I'm just enjoying my 2 minutes old chicken tenders right now.
2 minutes old chicken tenders. Tell you what, I thought you were going to sneak into Taylorville, Kevin, because they got a good burger place down there, Bill's Toasty, and they're a place that are actually they've been around forever, and they're 24 hours, which is pretty incredible. A small hole in the wall. I know you like a good burger.
Yeah, on that, but I'd be even later getting home. Here we are. It's Easter Sunday, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get home and at a decent hour, before midnight. But yeah, I'll catch them on the next go around. We've shameless plug coming up here. We got a long couple of days coming up, working on the finishing touches on our severe weather special that airs on Wednesday. So we want you to all tune in at 5:30 or 6:30 p.m. for that. And so if you're watching this here, you're obviously some kind of a severe weather enthusiast and nut.
And we will stream that, Kevin.
Here, talk about rain showers. Say it again.
We will stream that on our digital platforms as well.
Yeah, it'll be streaming on there. So even if you're not in our area, you can watch it pretty much where you're watching us right now. And so it's a nice 30-minute special. And so definitely tune in for that. So a little shameless plug since we don't have a whole lot going on. So quit bothering me. I got to get back to my chicken tenders.
All right, Kevin, we'll leave you alone.
Okay.
And I think we're going to quit bothering Seth, too, because, Seth, you just said you're going to start working on your stories for that, right?
Yeah, if I've only got 48 hours left to turn them in, I didn't know that. I thought it was next Wednesday.
We got to do some work on that. It's not like we
got it all done ahead of time.
But, but we're still listening to Kevin. He's not seeming to be bothered by that. So
Right.
I think he thinks we're going to get things done in a timely fashion there.
One thing I do find a little funny about this year's special is it's a little later than normal. We've had a lot of severe weather events already, so kind of already gotten the rehearsal on how to handle some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those wrap up. Hey, here's what to expect in severe weather that you should already know.
Right. This is the test, not the lesson.
That's a great way to put it here. And there's some great stories in there too. It's not just about being severe weather prepared. We've got some stories talking about a new program that's coming, a new partnership that's coming, and some of those things to talk about that just good education things. I think folks will find it to be very enjoyable overall. And so again, that's going to be Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. And we'll have that on WCIA. It's also going to stream on our digital platforms as well. So that'll be something that's exciting for that. Seth, do you want to give the big news?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? Let me bring up your...
Switch us over here.
This is some really exciting news. I think folks will be thrilled about.
That tornado watch, not so mighty anymore. In fact, a big bite has been taken out of it. There's still a few counties kind of technically included in it, but you can tell things have really quieted down. Some of those are just kind of out there for technicality purposes with storms still in the vicinity. But the main corridor between 55 and 57, those watches, which were put out for precautionary measure, now have been eliminated, wiped off the map there. So we are looking in pretty good shape. And in fact, I believe, if I have the coverage areas correctly, Lincoln does not have any watch here in our area. Those are just St. Louis and Chicago watches right now. So that's
and Quad Cities. Oh, in our viewing area. Yeah. I think Lincoln just sent all of the counties. They're like, we're done.
So, looks like things have wrapped up pretty good.
However,
good.
I will say this: NWS in Central Illinois, they are analyzing for a potential additional watch in southeastern Illinois.
Okay.
So that's probably going to be for areas to the south of us. I'll pull up my graphic here. I've been talking in the stream about that tornado warning now in the Carbondale area, and there's that tornado warning down there, including Southern Illinois University, the campus, and Carbondale, and the city of Carbondale, as well as Grand Tower, Murfreesboro in that for that storm coming out of Missouri. That's been a pretty impressive storm. So theoretically, with those warnings there south of Effingham in Marion County, it wouldn't be entirely out of the question to me to where we see a tornado watch issued and it includes areas south of our viewing area. Maybe it were to pull in Jasper Crawford County. That'd be the most I would see. I wouldn't see it being Effingham County. I wouldn't see it being really anywhere else in our viewing area, but that'd be down for friends down in Clay County, down towards Lawrenceville, Olney, Fairfield, Flora. That'd be the area to keep an eye on it. But again, instability is not that impressive out there, is it?
No, really, it's not. And that's kind of the same story from what we've seen all across the area. Talked about up until the forecast, it was a race between that line and the instability here at home. And the line couldn't win the race. That instability just kind of fizzled out. And that's exactly why we just got a whole lot of nothing out there, just some light showers. And that's it. Could not ran out of steam there as it tried to get to the finish line. And that's
Kevin, where you at?
Booty. We ran right over to Booty.
Kevin's in the back side of Booty there in the southwest side of town, heading northeast. So for a reference point, there's where he is there. He'll be moving into Decatur. Up 48. That's like the best town name in Illinois, isn't it?
Other than Chicken Bristle.
Chicken Bristle's up there, yeah. Bourbon, Douglas County.
Chicken Bristol.
What else you got, Kevin? Other town names you like?
We have.
Oh.
Did we lose them?
Kevin's
lost in Booty.
Goodness.
He is lost in Booty. We don't know where he is. That's the last shot we have from him. We heard him go, hey, he's back. He's back.
Oh, what? Are you kidding me? You lost me?
We lost you in Booty there for a second, Kevin. But you're out. Again, that's where Kevin is. It's actually a town here, folks.
It is. It is. B-O-O-D-Y. Okay, kids. B-O-O-D-Y. But I was saying, the water tower there that I shot in Booty was one of my more favorite ones because there's a lot of open fields around it. And I was able to come shooting really fast towards the old water tower there. So that one might make it into the shows tomorrow. But yeah, we're shooting northeast. I will just mention this on a semi-serious note. But there is a lot of heavy rain with this, and it's it's moderate, and it's moderate for it's going to rain in some areas for a good 90 minutes at a moderate clip. So just be aware of that. But yeah, this is just a big rainmaker now. So we're coming up here to get on to 51, and we'll hop on that to then get on to 72. And
Kevin, we did just bring up your water tower from there. So we see the Booty water tower.
Ah.
Yeah, looks pretty nice.
Yep.
Pretty good
Yep.
camera work there.
Hey, listen, I didn't run into it, and there were a few close calls. I'll just say that.
So many things we could say.
I'm just gonna hang
Yeah,
out.
just stop. Stop. Oh no.
Oh my.
Gotten too
It's not
deep
past
into that.
midnight. We can't be
I know.
we can't be what's the word? Slap happy.
Yeah,
We're still
shooting the
before
breeze,
midnight.
something like
We can't
that.
give that excuse
We're not
after,
on TV.
after midnight. Yeah,
This is digital.
this is true. Our digital folks, thanks to everybody who is rolling here with us, and I guess, and I'll just pop on here real quick, but it just goes to show that again, even if we're covering these kind of events, that we're going to be here for the big ones. So just remember that, file that one away, because there's not too many teams that have 3 weather people in at one time on an Easter Sunday. Let's just throw that out there. That doesn't happen across the country at many TV stations. So just file that one away for when things are bad, because we're going to be there for you when things are. This one had potential, but kind of all along we were like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. It should weaken, but you just kind of never know. So we just plan, as I like to say, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. So that's kind of what we did here. So, all right, I'm going to hop on 51 here and head back north. So,
All right, Kevin.
you guys kind of wrap things up.
Sounds good, Kevin. I think sometimes it's just fun too. We can have a little more fun in these lower events when things are looking more clear and things of that. Seth, why don't you give it a? Oh, we got that lightning there, Kevin. Seth, why don't we let you just take it away for a second? You can kind of give a last-minute overview, and then we'll close things down.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a current look at our radar picture. Again, no more warnings here in the area. Just pretty steady rain, and that's about it. I don't even want to say heavy rain in very many places. Maybe there's a couple pockets here and there. Tossing up lightning. You've got maybe, what is that? Maybe 15 total strikes that we can see across the entire area. So it's very rare to see one of those light shows there for a moment. We do still have some true thunderstorms up and down this line, but it is just kind of nice light rain that will help us out. I mean, we've still got a little bit of drought in the area, but we've done a good job of taking care of that of late. One thing to kind of monitor through the nights, just kind of some of these southern storms that have a little bit of strength on them as they head into parts of Clay County, eventually into Richland County area. Need to kind of keep an eye out for that stuff, as there's still some strong indications in there. Maybe a strong storm or two still possible, could graze some of our southern counties like Jasper and Crawford deeper on into the night. But we tend to think that the threat is largely over across our actual portion of the area. And I'll just kind of toss on that tornado watch one last time here across the state. You can see, this one is definitely behind. I don't know what it is about this particular graphic, so let me just pop up the actual alerts graphic there, and you can see things are looking pretty good. So maybe some showers, a few storms, maybe some gusty winds around, maybe 40 miles an hour here or there. But if you're kind of asking, your particular town, Champaign, Mattoon, Toledo, Paris, Danville, just some nice general rain, some wind, maybe if you're lucky, some thunder here and there. But that's pretty much it. This one had, I kind of talked about earlier in the week, even as early as Friday, this was a kind of low confidence but high potential events. And you like those to play out onto the lower side of things. Could have been a lot worse. It definitely was worse for the folks off to our west in Missouri. But here at home, we will gladly take splitting the gap as long as we still get the rain that is accompanying that. So that's pretty much all there is to it. If you're in Effingham, Jasper, Crawford County, just keep an eye out. There might be another strong storm or two possible here over the next hour or so. But
and you'll be here in case that's the case.
Yeah, we'll be hanging around.
We just won't be
correct. Yes, we will not be actively
twiddling our thumbs in the stream. Yeah.
We'll be hanging out here in the background. Still got some stuff to clean up here before we hand things off to the morning crew, which we will have a somewhat new face there tomorrow morning. Adam's taking a little time off. So, Jacob, quick turnaround for you, eh?
Yeah, I've done worse.
We have done worse before.
Is what it is. So cool. Thanks for that overview. And then we go down to Southern Illinois. Just been kind of watching those storms there by Carbondale. Again, there is that tornado warning down in the Carbondale area for some strong winds. Some strong rotation as well. You can see here just to the west of Carbondale is where that is in the Sand Ridge area. It's not the greatest signature, but it's there. So I know we've got some folks probably watching from the Carbondale area, or at least have connections down in Carbondale. That's probably where the greatest severe threat exists. But even those warnings in the northwestern part of the state have been dropped. So this last little segment here, probably the strongest locally from LaSalle, Peru, down to Bloomington, moving north and east, but it still is not much to look at. It's not that much of a looker for us. So that is what we will deal with there. With that, I can't think of anything else we need to talk about. I think we got it. Tornado watch just for a couple of counties left, but the severe threat largely over.
Yeah.
You'll be on at 10 o'clock in CBS with any updates. You'll be here as long as needed.
Yep. That's,
And
I do want to just leave people with a little bit of Easter treat here. How about later this week? I'm just going to pop up the high temps here real quick. How about that? 70s, 80s? That doesn't sound too bad right now, does it?
we get some storms with that at all?
Thursday, I think there's a chance. Doesn't look too concerning at the moment. There's not like a big trough swinging right through here, but there might be some storms. But we'll take ordinary thunderstorms like we're seeing tonight.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. All right, there's one last shot of Kevin rolling on through. And with that, thank you for being with the WCIA3 weather team. I'm Jacob Dickey. There's Kevin. We got Seth in here as well, and we'll keep you up to go and updated with the severe threat. We will not be back on tonight unless it is warranted. Remember, if there's a severe threat, we'll be right here. We'll keep you covered, but we think that severe threat largely over for a vast majority of our WCIA3 viewing area. The only exception might be Crawford and Jasper County, but that threat looks pretty low here. There's not much else to work with, so I think the rest of us can sleep tight tonight. And with that, Seth, I'll have you in that stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being at WCIA, and we will see you with Seth on TV at 10 o'clock, and then I'll be back with weather on the morning show starting at